The memo arrives at dawn. Harry knows it's trouble before he even breaks the seal. The parchment bears the deep green insignia of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, etched in silver, a designation reserved for sensitive operations. He reads the first line once. Then again. Highlands. Dark magic disturbance. Remote location. Civilian casualties suspected. And then the final line. Assigned specialist, Draco Malfoy. Harry exhales slowly through his nose. Of course. Outside the Aurora office windows, London is grey and wet. The kind of morning that clings to your ribs. He folds the parchment carefully, deliberately, as if neatness might temper irritation. He hasn't worked with Draco directly since the war. They've occupied the same ministry corridors. Sat across from one another at briefings. Exchanged clipped nods that were neither friendly nor hostile. But never this. A field assignment. Together. An hour later, Harry apparates to the ministry's lower transit hall. The air smells faintly of smoke and parchment. Auras move briskly around him. He spots Draco immediately. He always does. Draco stands near the far archway, pale hair tied back neatly, dark traveling robes cut sharply to fit. He looks exactly as Harry remembers, composed, precise, untouchable. And when Draco's eyes lift and lock onto his, the years between them collapse instantly. Recognition. Assessment. A faint curl of disdain. Well, Draco says smoothly as Harry approaches. I see the ministry has a sense of humor. Harry stops an arm's length away. I didn't request you. Nor are you. Silence settles between them, tight and familiar. A ministry liaison steps forward, eager and uncomfortable. The disturbance began 3 nights ago. A research outpost in the Northern Highlands. 2 unspeakables dispatched earlier have not reported back. Your assignment is to assess, contain, and retrieve. Harry nods. Draco says nothing. The liaison clears his throat. Witnesses described atmospheric disruption. Electrical interference. Emotional agitation preceding magical surges. Harry glances sideways. Draco's expression sharpens slightly. Emotional agitation, Harry repeats. Yes. Arguments seem to intensify it. Draco gives a short, humorless huff. How poetic. Harry ignores him. They are handed a reinforced portkey, a simple iron ring pulsing faintly with blue light. The liaison hesitates. You may experience resistance upon arrival. Be cautious. And try not to exacerbate whatever is occurring. Draco's gaze flicks toward Harry again. Subtle. Provocative. Harry grips the portkey firmly. On 3, they count together. The world yanks sideways. Cold slams into Harry first. Not natural cold. Not weather. Magic. They land hard on frost-covered stone overlooking a vast sweep of white. The highlands stretch endless and jagged, the sky heavy with dark, swirling cloud. The air hums. Draco steadies himself beside Harry, brushing snow from his sleeve with controlled irritation. Charming. The research outpost stands half a mile ahead, a squat stone structure surrounded by wards that flicker erratically like dying lanterns. A pulse ripples through the air. It feels like pressure behind the eyes. Harry takes a step forward. The wind rises sharply. Draco pauses. You felt that? Yes. Another pulse. This one sharper. The air vibrates, not violently, but knowingly. As if something has noticed them. They begin walking toward the outpost. Snow crunches underfoot. The wind picks up in uneven bursts, rising whenever their silence stretches too thin. Harry breaks it first. You've been studying relic disturbances. Draco doesn't look at him. I consult when incompetence requires correction. Harry's jaw tightens. Is that what this is? Draco's mouth curves faintly. We'll see. The wind spikes violently. A sudden gust nearly knocks Harry off balance. Snow whips upward in a blinding arc. Draco stumbles slightly. Harry instinctively reaches out, gripping Draco's forearm to steady him. The moment their skin connects, the wind drops. Instantly. The silence that follows is unnatural. Both of them freeze. Harry releases him quickly. Neither speaks. They resume walking. The wards around the outpost flare and crackle as they approach. The air grows heavier, thicker, like a storm waiting to break. Harry can feel it now. Something isn't just present. It's reactive. And it's listening. They reach the door. Draco rests a hand lightly against the wood, eyes narrowing as he senses the magic beneath it. It's not random. No, Harry agrees quietly. The air shudders again. But softer this time. Measured. Waiting. Harry pushes the door open. Inside, the research cabin is dim and abandoned. Papers scattered. Candles melted into hardened pools. A shattered glass case lies at the center of the room. Within it, a fragment of blackened metal pulses faintly. Each pulse matches the hum in the air. Draco steps forward carefully. Don't, Harry warns. Draco ignores him. The fragment pulses brighter. Harry feels something coil in his chest, tension he can't name. Draco kneels beside the shattered case. You feel it, he says quietly. Yes, it's emotional magic. Harry's eyes snap to him. Draco stands slowly. It reacts. Another pulse. Stronger. The walls creak faintly. Harry and Draco lock eyes. And the fragment flares violently. The wind outside howls. The storm has begun. The fragment in the shattered case looks wrong in a way Harry can't explain. It isn't large, no bigger than Harry's palm, but it draws the room's attention like a living thing. Black metal, scorched at the edges, threaded with hairline cracks that glow faintly whenever it pulses. The air around it shivers, as if reality is a thin sheet being tugged. Draco steps closer, slow and careful, like he's approaching a sleeping animal. Harry watches his hands. You're going to tell me what it is, Harry says, before you touch it. Draco doesn't look back. I'm going to tell you what it is after I understand what it is. That's not an answer. Draco's mouth twitches. It's the best you'll get. The fragment pulses again. Harry feels it in his teeth. The candle stubs on the tables flicker, though there's no fire left in them. A paper on the desk flutters as if something invisible moved through the room. Draco tilts his head, listening with more than his ears. Residual field is layered, not just dark magic. Harry steps nearer, keeping his distance from Draco on principle. The memo said unspeakables were sent, yes, which means they couldn't classify it quickly. Draco lifts his wand and draws a thin circle in the air. A faint net of runes blooms, diagnostic magic. This is old. How old? Draco's gaze stays fixed on the fragment. Older than your reputation, Harry's fingers tighten around his wand. Try again. Draco finally looks at him, pale eyes sharp. You want a number? I'm telling you, it predates modern ward theory. Whoever built this designed it to respond to intention. Harry studies the fragment. Respond how? Draco's gaze flicks down again. That's what I'm about to. The fragment flares brighter. A low groan shudders through the cabin walls, like the entire structure is exhaling. Harry's instincts spike. Malfoy, step back. Draco freezes, then slowly does as told. The fragment dims. Harry lets out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Draco arches a brow. Interesting. It reacted to you. It reacted to you. It reacted to us, Draco corrects, voice mild and irritating. Harry doesn't like that. He doesn't like the implication. He doesn't like the way the air feels charged, as if the cabin is waiting for them to make the wrong move. He circles the room instead, taking in the chaos left behind. 2 abandoned packs. A half-finished report on the desk. Scorch marks on the floor near the broken case, like someone tried to contain an eruption and failed. Harry picks up the report. The ink is smeared, the handwriting rushed. Subject displays harmonic response to elevated emotional output, Harry reads aloud. Draco's head turns sharply. Give me that. Harry keeps reading, ignoring him. Environmental disturbance increases with interpersonal conflict. Recommending immediate isolation protocols. Warning: proximity to compatible magical signatures may stabilize field. He looks up. Compatible signatures? Draco's jaw tightens. Hand it over, Potter. Harry tosses the parchment onto the table instead of into Draco's hand. Draco catches it with a flick of his wand, eyes scanning fast. Isolation protocols, Harry repeats. Why would Unspeakables write that? Draco's voice is clipped. Because the artifact isn't causing random chaos, it's feeding. Feeding on what? Draco looks up again, something colder slipping into his expression. You heard the liaison. Arguments made it worse. Harry stares. You're saying it feeds on emotion. I'm saying it amplifies what's already present. Draco folds the report neatly, which somehow makes Harry angrier. How do you know? Draco's gaze slides over Harry like a blade. Because this kind of magic exists in old blood wards. It's been outlawed for centuries. It doesn't create feelings. It uses them. Harry feels the faintest prickle along his arms, like the cabin itself is listening. He forces his voice steady. So what's the plan? Draco steps toward the fragment again, slower this time. The air tightens. We identify the core spellwork, we neutralize it, and we get out. That's not a plan, that's an outcome. Draco's eyes flash. You want a plan? Fine. You stop assuming I'm about to betray you every time I breathe, and I stop pretending you're the Ministry's shining moral standard. The fragment pulses hard. The walls creak. Harry's temper spikes before he can catch it. You expect me to trust you? Draco's laugh is sharp and bitter. You don't have to trust me. You just have to be competent enough not to sabotage us with your paranoia. Another pulse, stronger. A gust of wind hammers the outside of the cabin, rattling the windows. Harry's eyes snap to the door. The storm outside answers them like a dog trained to bite on command. He turns back to Draco. You're provoking it. Draco's nostrils flare. I'm not provoking anything. It's reacting. To you. To us, Draco says again, voice low. Harry hates that he's right. Harry moves closer to the fragment, keeping his wand trained on it. He can feel the pull now, subtle, insistent, like the artifact wants him to step nearer. He doesn't. Draco kneels again, drawing careful runes around the shattered case with the tip of his wand. There. A containment lattice. If it surges, it'll. Harry hears it then. Not a sound. A sensation. Like something breathing beneath the floorboards. He swallows. Malfoy, do you feel that? Draco doesn't answer immediately. His voice, when it comes, is quieter. Yes. The fragment pulses again, and this time the glow stretches like veins across the floor, reaching toward the runes Draco drew, testing them. Harry's stomach drops. This thing is awake, Harry says. Draco rises slowly, eyes fixed on the fragment. It's not just awake, the glow flickers. The cabin shudders. And outside, the wind begins to howl like it's laughing. Draco's voice is tight. It recognizes conflict. Harry turns his head slightly, keeping his eyes on the fragment. Then we don't fight. Draco's expression sharpens, almost amused. Good luck with that. The fragment pulses, harder, hungrier. As if it heard him. The cabin grows quieter. Not calm. Expectant. The fragment's glow deepens from faint ember to steady pulse, each flare brighter than the last. The containment lattice Draco drew trembles, runes flickering like dying stars. Harry steps back instinctively. Contain it, he says. Draco's jaw tightens. I am containing it. The fragment pulses again, harder. The windows rattle violently. Snow slams against the glass like thrown gravel. Harry feels the pressure building in the air, thick and electric. It presses against his chest, crawls along his spine. Reinforce the lattice, he snaps. Draco flicks his wand sharply, adding a second layer of containment. Silver threads of magic weave into the floorboards, tightening around the fragment. For a heartbeat, the glow dims. Harry exhales. Then Draco mutters, almost under his breath, "You always assume the worst." Harry's head turns. What? The fragment flares. The floor shudders beneath them. Draco straightens slowly. You've done it since school. Since the first train ride. You decide who someone is and never revise. The glow intensifies. The runes sputter. This is not the time, Harry warns. Draco's voice sharpens. When is the time, then? The fragment erupts in blinding white light. The containment lattice shatters like glass. Harry throws up a shield on instinct. The explosion is not fire. It is wind. It bursts outward in a violent spiral, ripping parchment from tables, splintering wood, tearing open the cabin door. The storm outside answers immediately. A roar shakes the earth. Harry stumbles backward, boots sliding across the frost-covered floor. Draco braces himself against the nearest wall, robes snapping violently around him. The fragment rises into the air. Suspended. Spinning. It pulses once, twice, and then something in the sky tears open. Not physically. Magically. The clouds above churn unnaturally fast, spiraling inward like a funnel forming. Snow lifts from the ground, swirling upward instead of falling. The temperature drops so sharply Harry's breath freezes mid-exhale. Outside, Harry shouts over the rising wind. Draco doesn't argue. They bolt through the shattered doorway just as the cabin ceiling splinters behind them. The wind hits like a physical force. Harry squints into the whiteout, snow slicing across his face like shards of ice. Visibility drops to almost nothing within seconds. Behind them, the fragment shoots skyward and then vanishes into the storm. Harry swears. "That was containment," he shouts. Draco's voice is barely audible over the roar. It broke free. The ground trembles. A wave of pressure surges outward from the epicenter, knocking Harry to one knee. His wand nearly slips from his grasp. Draco stumbles sideways, too close to the cliff edge they'd passed earlier. Harry's heart spikes. Malfoy. A violent gust tears across the ridge, strong enough to lift snow in solid sheets. Draco's footing slips. For one terrifying second, he vanishes into white. Harry moves before he thinks. He lunges forward blindly, grabbing the first solid thing he finds. Draco's forearm. The skin connects. And the wind stops. Not fully. But enough. Enough that Harry can see Draco's face inches from his own. Pale. Wide-eyed. Breathing hard. The storm continues to rage beyond them, but the air immediately surrounding him calms into an unnatural stillness. Harry's grip tightens. Draco's fingers curl instinctively around Harry's sleeve. They stare at each other. Neither speaks. The moment stretches. The wind begins to build again slowly. Harry releases him abruptly. The storm surges back with violent force. Snow slams sideways. The sky churns faster. Draco steadies himself, eyes flicking toward Harry with something unreadable. "Did you feel that?" "Yes. Direct correlation," Draco mutters, scanning the storm. Physical contact suppressed the field. Harry doesn't like the implication. He doesn't like any of this. The wind screams louder. The storm is no longer passive. It's responding. Reacting. To them. Harry glances toward the distant tree line. "We need shelter. Now." "The cabin is gone," Draco replies flatly. A lightning-like streak of white magic cracks across the sky, not electricity, but raw arcane energy. Harry makes a quick decision. There's an old research outpost further north. Stone structure. It might still be standing. Draco nods once. They begin moving through the whiteout, struggling against wind that feels almost deliberate in its resistance. Every time their shoulders brush by accident, the wind falters briefly. Every time they drift apart too far, it intensifies. Harry's mind races. It isn't random. It isn't weather. It's a feedback loop. The artifact fed on conflict. Now the storm is amplifying it. Snow blinds them. The ridge narrows. Another violent gust slams into them from the side. Draco stumbles again. Harry catches him. Again. The storm stutters. Silence ripples outward in a brief circle. Draco's breath fogs between them. "This isn't coincidence," Draco says quietly. "No," Harry agrees. The calm lasts only seconds before the wind begins to scream again. They move forward together this time. Not touching. But closer. Deliberately. And the storm, though still violent, no longer feels entirely uncontrolled. It feels focused. Watching. Waiting. As if it knows they haven't understood yet. As if it's waiting for them to argue again. Ahead, through shifting snow, Harry finally spots it. A squat stone structure half buried against the hillside. Wards flicker faintly across its doorway. Over there, Harry shouts. They push toward it. The storm intensifies the closer they get, as though resisting their escape. Harry reaches the door first and slams his palm against the wardstone embedded in the frame. It flares to life. Draco crashes through the entrance just as the wind roars behind them like a living thing denied its prey. The door slams shut. The wards snap fully into place. Inside, silence falls like a dropped curtain. Both of them stand there breathing hard. Snow melts slowly off their robes. The storm continues to rage outside. But here, they are alone. Trapped. Draco turns toward Harry slowly. The look in his eyes is not anger. Not entirely. It's realization. This isn't about the artifact anymore, Draco says quietly. Harry feels it too. The storm isn't random. It's responsive. And they just made it worse. The silence inside the stone structure feels unnatural. Not peaceful. Contained. Harry presses his palm against the inside of the door, reinforcing the wardstone with a stabilizing charm. The runes glow faintly blue, then settle into a steady hum. The storm outside slams into the walls in uneven bursts. But it cannot enter. For now. Draco moves deeper into the room, shaking melting snow from his sleeves. The cabin is older than the research outpost they left behind, stone floor, wooden beams, a narrow fireplace carved directly into the far wall. It smells faintly of ash and dust. Temporary field station, Draco murmurs, scanning the perimeter. Pre-war construction. Solid. Harry steps away from the door and takes in the space properly. One table. Two chairs. A narrow hearth. And against the far wall, one bed. Harry exhales slowly. Draco notices at the same moment. Of course, Draco says flatly. It's a research outpost, Harry replies. They weren't planning sleepovers. Draco arches a brow but doesn't respond. Harry walks to the single window slit carved into the stone. Outside, white chaos swirls violently. Snow spirals upward instead of down. The sky churns in a tight, unnatural vortex. He tries a simple diagnostic charm toward the window. The spell flickers and dies halfway. Apparition won't work, Draco says without looking at him. I wasn't trying to apparate, you were thinking about it, Harry turns sharply. Stay out of my head, Draco's lips press thin. Relax, you're predictable. The wind howls louder immediately. A violent crash rattles the entire structure. Dust drifts down from the ceiling beams. Harry and Draco both freeze. The storm surges harder. Harry closes his eyes briefly. It's responding again. To tone. To friction. He forces his voice steady. Test the radius. Draco nods once and moves toward the far corner of the cabin. He raises his wand and casts a tracking charm toward the doorway. The spell reaches the threshold, and snaps. A shockwave reverberates through the stone walls. Harry's breath catches. Distance limit, Draco says quietly. How far? Draco walks toward the door slowly. At 5 steps away from Harry, the wind outside increases sharply. At 7, the stone floor vibrates. At 10, the wards flicker violently, blue runes sputtering gold. Harry feels the pressure spike in his ears. Stop, he orders. Draco does. The storm does not. It continues to build, angry and rising. Harry closes the distance between them quickly. At 3 steps apart, the vibration lessens. At 1, the storm softens into a steady roar instead of a violent scream. Draco's eyes lift to meet his. They both understand. It's keyed to proximity, Draco says quietly. Specifically ours. The air in the cabin feels thick. Harry steps back cautiously. The wind spikes immediately. Draco steps closer again on instinct. The storm eases. They stand 2 paces apart. Balanced. Harry swallows. This isn't random magic. No, Draco agrees. It's relational. Harry hates that word. He moves toward the hearth instead. Fire. Draco flicks his wand and coaxes embers to life in the old stone fireplace. Flames rise slowly, casting gold light across the room. The warmth spreads gradually. Harry shrugs out of his outer cloak and drapes it over a chair. His muscles ache from the cold and adrenaline. Draco removes his gloves carefully, fingers pale and slightly trembling despite his composed posture. Harry notices. He doesn't comment. The wind outside slams once more against the walls. Harry tests something. He steps deliberately toward the window, increasing the distance between them. The storm answers immediately. Louder. Sharper. The fire flickers violently. Draco doesn't speak. Harry returns to his previous position. The storm quiets. The fire steadies. Silence settles between them again. Controlled. Measured. We can't stay separated, Harry says finally. Draco's jaw tightens. I'm aware. And we can't fight. Draco's eyes narrow slightly. That may be more difficult. Harry lets out a slow breath. You don't get to provoke this. Draco's lips part, the wind spikes instantly. The cabin groans under the strain. Draco closes his mouth. Harry doesn't miss the restraint. For the first time since arriving, Draco chooses silence. The storm gradually reduces to a steady howl. Harry moves toward the bed and studies it with resignation. Narrow. Built for one. We'll take shifts, he says. Draco laughs softly. If you think the storm won't react to us separating during sleep, you're optimistic. Harry glances at him. Then we don't separate. The words hang there. Neutral. Practical. Loaded. Draco looks toward the bed again, expression unreadable. We maintain proximity. Exactly. Harry moves to the table and examines what little remains from previous occupants: old flint, dried kindling, a cracked mug. No food. No spare blankets. Draco approaches the fireplace, warming his hands slowly. The distance between them settles at 2 paces. The storm remains loud but contained. Harry feels it now. The pattern. Every spike tied to sharp emotion. Every lull tied to quiet. This isn't survival against weather. It's survival against themselves. He glances toward Draco. Draco is watching the fire, but his posture is rigid, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. Harry recognizes that tension. He feels it too. Years of unfinished arguments compressed into one small room. One bed. One storm. Outside, the vortex churns endlessly. Inside, the fire crackles. And the space between them feels smaller than it should. Draco finally speaks. We should establish parameters. Harry looks at him. For what? For this, Draco says evenly. If the storm reacts to emotional volatility, then control becomes essential. Harry nods once. Fine. Draco's eyes hold his steadily. No deliberate antagonism. Harry exhales slowly. Agreed. No revisiting the war. A beat. Agreed. Draco hesitates slightly. No accusations. Harry swallows. Fine. The storm outside softens almost imperceptibly. Draco studies him for a long moment. Good, he says quietly. Harry moves toward the hearth and sits. Draco remains standing. The bed looms behind them like a silent decision neither of them wants to make yet. The firelight casts shifting shadows across Draco's face. Harry looks away first. The storm continues to circle. And the night is only beginning. Night falls quickly in the Highlands. One moment the window slit shows a dull grey blur of stormlight. The next, it is black. The fire burns steadily, but the warmth it gives feels thin against the cold pressing in from the stone walls. The cabin holds, but barely. Wind claws across the exterior in long, scraping passes. Harry sits on the floor with his back against the wall, wand resting loosely in his hand. He pretends to study the ward patterns carved near the door. In truth, he is listening. To the wind. To the fire. To Draco's breathing across the room. Draco has taken the chair near the hearth. He sits straight-backed, composed, watching the flames as if they might reveal something useful. Neither of them has spoken in nearly an hour. The storm has settled into a steady howl. Not violent. Not calm. Waiting. Harry stands abruptly and crosses to the window. He presses his palm lightly against the cold stone beside it. The wind spikes instantly. The fire flares high and then dips. Draco's voice cuts through the room, sharp and controlled. Distance. Harry turns. I know. He moves back toward the center of the cabin. The storm eases again. The pattern is undeniable now. Proximity stabilizes it. Separation agitates it. But it isn't just distance. Earlier, when they argued, the wind screamed. When they steadied each other, it quieted. Harry forces the thought away. The fire crackles lower. Draco rises silently and adds what little kindling remains. There isn't much, Draco says quietly. Harry nods. We ration. Draco's gaze flicks briefly to the bed. Harry sees it. The temperature shifts subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. The air grows sharper, colder, biting through layers of fabric. Harry rubs his hands together once and casts a subtle warming charm across the room. The spell fizzles halfway. Draco notices. Ambient magic interference, he murmurs. Harry tries again, focusing harder. The charm works this time, but only faintly. A thin layer of warmth spreads across the space before thinning rapidly. The cold presses back in. Outside, the wind changes pitch. Lower. Deeper. Draco steps closer to the fire, hands extended toward the flames. Harry watches as Draco's fingers tremble slightly before he stills them. Are you cold? Harry asks before he can stop himself. Draco doesn't look at him. Obviously, the wind hits the cabin in a heavy, rolling crash. The fire gutters. The temperature drops sharply, fast enough that Harry's breath fogs in thick clouds. He swears softly and moves toward the hearth, reinforcing the flames with a stronger incantation. The magic catches, then flickers violently. The storm answers with a scream that rattles the beams overhead. Harry freezes. The fire dims again. The cold seeps deeper. Draco's composure begins to crack at the edges. His shoulders tighten. His jaw sets harder than before. Harry steps closer. Not touching. Just closer. The wind softens slightly. Draco's breath fogs faster now. His skin has gone pale beneath the firelight. Harry understands suddenly. The cabin wards block intrusion. But they don't block the temperature shift. The storm is bleeding cold into the structure deliberately. Testing them. Harry glances toward the bed again. Practical. Nothing else. Get under the blankets, Harry says. Draco's eyes flash. I'm not fragile. That wasn't what I meant. The wind rises sharply at Draco's tone. The floor vibrates. Draco closes his eyes briefly and exhales through his nose. Fine, he says evenly. He moves toward the bed with deliberate calm and sits on its edge. Harry waits. The cold continues to intensify. Draco lies back stiffly, pulling the single blanket over himself. The storm surges immediately. The cabin groans under pressure. Harry steps toward the opposite wall, testing the distance. The wind explodes in response. The door ward flickers dangerously. Harry swears again and moves quickly toward the bed. As soon as he closes the gap to within arm's reach, the wind lessens. The vibration fades. Draco's eyes open slowly. Understanding dawns in both of them at the same time. Harry hesitates only a second before climbing onto the bed. The mattress dips under his weight. The cold bites hard enough now that hesitation feels stupid. He pulls the edge of the blanket over himself. The distance between him is minimal. The storm quiets further. Not gone. But steady. Draco lies rigid on his back, staring at the ceiling. Harry does the same. The silence between them is thick. The cold still lingers, but not as violently. Minutes pass. The wind grows quieter. The temperature drops again. Subtle. But dangerous. Draco's breathing begins to shift. Shallower. Faster. Harry glances sideways. Draco's hands are clenched into fists at his sides. His shoulders tremble. Harry swallows. Malfoy. No response. The tremor worsens. The cold has settled deep into the stone. The single blanket isn't enough. Harry doesn't overthink it this time. He shifts closer. Their shoulders brush. The wind outside stutters. Draco's breath catches. Harry moves closer again. Careful. Deliberate. Until their arms press lightly together beneath the blanket. The storm quiets significantly. The cabin steadies. Draco turns his head slowly. Their faces are inches apart. Firelight flickers across pale skin and sharp shadows. Harry can feel the warmth returning, not from the fire. From contact. Draco's voice is barely above a whisper. This is tactical. Yes. Draco hesitates. Then, almost reluctantly, he shifts closer to. Chest to shoulder. Thigh to thigh. The warmth spreads faster now. The wind reduces to a low, distant roar instead of a violent scream. Harry feels the change ripple outward. He doesn't pull away. Neither does Draco. The cold continues pressing at the walls, but it can't penetrate the space between them. Draco's trembling slows. Gradually, his breathing evens out. Harry stares at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every point of contact. It shouldn't feel like this. It shouldn't feel steady. The storm continues circling. But it no longer feels like it's trying to break in. It feels like it's observing. Testing. Harry's eyes drift shut briefly. Draco shifts slightly in sleep, or near sleep. His hand brushes Harry's wrist. The wind pauses completely. For 3 long seconds. Silence outside. Absolute. Then it resumes. Soft. Measured. Harry's eyes open. He stares into the dim firelight. This isn't coincidence. This isn't just proximity. It's something else. Something the artifact awakened. Something the storm now feeds on. Draco's breathing deepens. He has fallen asleep. Harry remains awake. Listening. Feeling the warmth shared between them. Understanding slowly that survival might demand more than silence. Outside, the storm circles patiently. Inside, the first crack in hatred has formed. Harry wakes slowly. Not to sound. Not to movement. To warmth. It takes him a moment to understand why. The fire in the hearth has burned down to faint embers, casting only the weakest glow across the stone walls. The air is still cold, but not biting. Because he is not alone beneath the blanket. Draco is pressed fully against him. Not rigid anymore. Not controlled. Sleeping. One arm lies across Harry's waist, fingers loosely curled into the fabric of his shirt. Their legs are tangled beneath the blanket. Draco's forehead rests lightly against Harry's shoulder. Harry freezes. The storm outside hums faintly. Quiet. Steady. He swallows. Very carefully, he shifts slightly. Draco stirs. His hand tightens unconsciously against Harry's side. The wind outside dips lower. Harry goes still again. Draco exhales softly, breath warm against Harry's neck. Harry stares at the ceiling. This is survival, he tells himself. Nothing else. The fire pops weakly. Draco inhales sharply and wakes. For one suspended second, neither of them move. Draco's eyes open slowly. He registers the proximity. The position. The contact. And then he pulls back sharply. The blanket shifts. The distance increases by a few inches. Outside, the wind rises instantly. Harry feels it before he hears it, a low vibration beneath the stone floor. Draco notices too. He glances toward the window slit, then back at Harry. His expression hardens. Tactical, Draco says evenly. Yes, they separate further. The mattress shifts. The storm slams against the cabin walls in response. The door ward flickers. Harry curses under his breath and moves back slightly. The wind lowers. Draco watches the change with narrowed eyes. Control, Draco murmurs. Harry nods once. They sit upright slowly, careful not to increase the gap too quickly. The storm stabilizes at a manageable roar. The silence between them feels different now. Thinner. Sharper. Draco swings his legs over the side of the bed and stands carefully. The temperature inside the cabin drops immediately. Harry notices the shift before Draco does. "Stop," Harry says. Draco pauses mid-step. The wind outside increases. Draco turns slowly. Harry stands and closes the space between them to less than an arm's length. The storm eases again. Draco's jaw tightens. "So that's the threshold," he says quietly. Apparently, Draco studies him for a long moment. The fire sputters again. Harry moves to the hearth and coaxes the embers back to life. This time the flames catch faster. Warmer. He doesn't miss the way Draco remains within close range. Deliberately. The cabin fills with a low golden light. Morning bleeds faintly through the window slit, but the sky remains thick and churning. Harry moves to the table and begins assessing their options. "Portkeys gone," he says. "Apparition fails beyond the ward radius." Draco nods. "We're contained within a 10-mile field. The storm isn't weather, it's a magical perimeter." Harry glances at him. "You're certain?" "Yes." "How?" Draco's gaze flicks to him briefly. "Because it tightens when you pull away." Harry's jaw clenches. "That's not funny. I wasn't joking." The wind spikes slightly at Harry's tone. He forces himself to breathe evenly. "No antagonism," he mutters. Draco inclines his head faintly. "Agreed." Harry crosses to the door and tests the wardstone. It hums steadily, but faint cracks of stress run through the outer rune lines. "It won't hold indefinitely," Harry says. Draco steps closer to examine it. The storm calms slightly with their proximity. Draco's shoulder nearly brushes Harry's. Neither acknowledges it. "The artifact integrated with the atmospheric magic," Draco says quietly. "The initial explosion wasn't dispersal, it was expansion." "So the storm is the artifact." "In a sense." Harry exhales sharply. "Brilliant." Draco's lips twitch faintly. "You say that as if I planned it." Harry glances at him. The tension rises instinctively. The wind answers with a sudden violent slam against the stone. The walls shudder. Dust falls from the beams. Both of them go still. Draco closes his eyes briefly. Harry forces his voice flat. "This won't work if we keep doing that." Draco opens his eyes again. There is something different there now. Not anger. Awareness. "Yes," Draco says quietly. "It won't." Harry straightens. "We test it." Draco arches a brow slightly. The storm reacts to hostility. To distance. But last night, Harry hesitates. Draco studies him closely. "Last night," Draco repeats. "When we weren't arguing," Harry says evenly. "It quieted." Draco's voice is low. "You're suggesting emotional regulation. I'm suggesting we stop feeding it." Draco considers this. Then, slowly, he steps half a pace closer. The storm softens. The fire steadies. The air grows slightly warmer. Neither of them looks away. The proximity feels heavier now in daylight. More deliberate. Draco's voice is softer than before. "And if we fail?" Harry meets his gaze steadily. Then the storm wins. The wind outside circles the cabin like a predator pacing its prey. But it does not strike. Not yet. They stand within arm's reach. Careful. Measured. understanding that this is no longer just survival against cold. It is survival against themselves. And neither of them has ever been good at that. The storm does not lessen. It circles. Contained, for now, within the stone shell of the cabin. Harry forces himself to step away from the door and back toward the center of the room. Draco mirrors him without comment, maintaining that narrow margin of distance the storm seems to tolerate. The fire burns steadier this morning, though the wood is nearly gone. The warmth it gives feels conditional. Like everything else here. We need information, Harry says. Draco nods once and begins scanning the room properly for the first time since their arrival. His movements are precise, controlled. He checks the walls for carved runes, the table for hidden compartments, the hearth for ward inscriptions. Harry circles the perimeter slowly, trailing his fingers along the stone. There, near the far wall, half hidden beneath a fallen beam, is a leather case. Harry kneels and pulls it free. It bears the faint seal of the Department of Mysteries. Draco steps closer immediately. The storm outside hums louder. Harry cracks the case open carefully. Inside, a folded report, a crystal recorder, and a charmed ink vial still glowing faintly. Draco exhales slowly. They were documenting. Harry unfolds the parchment. The handwriting is rushed but legible. He reads aloud. Initial exposure suggests artifact is keyed to dual magical signatures. Harmonic resonance increases in the presence of unresolved interpersonal tension. Draco's expression shifts almost imperceptibly. Harry continues. Artifact does not generate emotion. It magnifies and externalizes suppressed conflict. Environmental response proportional to intensity of denial. Silence falls. The wind outside deepens in tone. Harry lowers the parchment slightly. Denial. Draco's jaw tightens. Harry reads the final line. Field destabilization possible if subjects achieve emotional alignment. The word lingers in the air. Alignment. Draco speaks first. Emotional alignment does not mean affection. Harry's eyes flick to him. I didn't say it did. Draco's gaze holds steady. It could mean resolution. Resolution of what? Draco doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he reaches into the case and removes the crystal recorder. He activates it with a quiet charm. A flicker of light blooms inside the crystal. A distorted voice fills the room. Artifact reacts strongest to suppressed hostility. Attempted controlled argument resulted in atmospheric surge. Physical proximity dampened response temporarily. Suggest further testing. The recording cuts abruptly into static. Harry closes his eyes briefly. They tested it. Yes. And they lost control. Draco replaces the crystal carefully. The storm outside swells faintly, like breath drawing in. Harry looks back at the parchment. Dual magical signatures, he repeats quietly. Draco's gaze shifts to him. It's keyed to us. Harry swallows. That doesn't make sense. It does, Draco says evenly. We were present when the relic destabilized. Our magic interacted with it. Harry shakes his head. Plenty of auras have conflict. Draco's expression sharpens slightly. Not like this. The wind spikes sharply. The cabin walls creak. Harry steps closer instinctively. The storm lowers. They stand within that narrow margin again. Breathing controlled. Measured. Harry's voice drops. Explain. Draco hesitates. And for the first time since this began, he looks uncertain. The artifact was built to amplify divided magic, Draco says slowly. Two signatures bound by unresolved history create harmonic instability. Harry feels something tighten in his chest. You're saying this is about us? Yes. The wind pulses once, hard. Harry forces his voice steady. So what does alignment mean? Draco's eyes hold his. It means we stop pretending nothing exists between us. The fire crackles loudly in the silence that follows. Harry's pulse pounds in his ears. There's nothing between us, he says flatly. The storm explodes. The cabin shudders violently. The door ward flickers dangerously. The fire flares high and then nearly extinguishes. Harry feels the pressure slam into him like a physical blow. Draco grabs his arm without thinking. The contact steadies the room instantly. The storm lowers to a dangerous but controlled roar. They freeze. Draco's fingers remain wrapped around Harry's sleeve. Harry's breath comes fast. Neither moves. Denial, Draco says quietly. Harry jerks his arm free. The wind surges again. Draco steps closer quickly, close enough that their shoulders nearly brush. The storm steadies. Harry's heart is pounding. This is manipulation, Harry says. No, Draco replies evenly. It's amplification. Harry's hands curl into fists. This is ridiculous. The wind rises. Draco's voice sharpens. Stop. Harry inhales deeply, forcing his anger down. The storm lowers gradually. Draco studies him carefully. You cannot fight it, Draco says softly. It feeds on suppression. Harry looks away first. The cabin feels smaller now. More intimate. The bed behind them looms heavier than before. Harry runs a hand through his hair. So what? We sit here and confess grievances until it gets bored. Draco's lips press thin. If necessary, Harry huffs a humorless laugh. The wind flickers but does not spike. Progress. Draco exhales slowly. This storm will not dissipate through force, it is anchored to emotional dissonance. Harry's gaze snaps back to him. Emotional dissonance, he repeats. Yes. And what does alignment require? Draco's eyes hold his longer than necessary. Honesty. The word lands heavily. The storm outside hums lower, almost anticipatory. Harry feels the weight of it. Years of unfinished sentences. Unspoken thoughts. Avoided looks in ministry corridors. This is not just about war. It never was. He swallows. We don't have to like each other, Harry says carefully. No, we just have to stop lying to ourselves. Draco's expression flickers. Something softer. Something dangerous. Yes. The wind lowers another degree. The fire steadies. The air warms slightly. The cabin feels less strained. Not calm. But responsive. Harry exhales slowly. This is absurd. Draco's mouth curves faintly. Yes. The storm hums like distant thunder. Waiting. Harry looks at the bed again. Then back at Draco. If alignment requires honesty, then this is far from over. The storm waits. Harry can feel it. It hums beyond the stone walls like something coiled, patient, aware that it has cornered its prey. The fire burns low but steady. The warmth in the cabin feels conditional now, granted in exchange for restraint. Harry moves back toward the table and folds the Unspeakable's report carefully, as though neatness might keep the air from tightening again. Draco remains close. Close enough that the storm does not surge. Not touching. But within that invisible threshold. Honesty, Harry says flatly. Fine. Draco inclines his head slightly. We begin with control. Harry exhales slowly. You go first. Draco studies him for a long moment. The firelight sharpens the angles of his face, casting silver shadows beneath his eyes. You've never forgiven me, Draco says evenly. The wind outside shifts. Not violent. Not yet. Harry's jaw tightens. You don't know that. Draco's gaze does not waver. You don't look at me like someone who has. The wind deepens in tone. Harry forces his breathing slow. This isn't about forgiveness. No. Draco's voice remains controlled. Then what is it about? Harry hesitates. The storm hums louder. Draco steps half a pace closer instinctively. The vibration lowers slightly. Harry swallows. It's about what you chose, he says finally. You chose it. The wind spikes. A violent gust slams against the cabin walls. The fire flares dangerously high. Draco's expression hardens. I was 16. You still chose, Harry snaps. The storm explodes. The door ward flickers violently. Dust rains down from the ceiling. The bed frame rattles against the stone. Draco closes the distance between them abruptly. The storm drops to a heavy but contained roar. Their faces are inches apart. You think I don't know that? Draco says, voice low and tight. Harry's pulse pounds. You never said it. The wind rises again. Draco's hand grips the edge of the table, knuckles white. You think I haven't said it enough, he demands quietly. You think surviving that house didn't cost me. The storm howls louder. The cabin trembles. Harry feels the pressure pushing in, thick and suffocating. You had a choice, Harry says again, but softer. The storm hesitates. Draco's voice drops further. And what would you have done? He asks. If your parents were there. If refusal meant death. If obedience meant survival. The wind falters. Harry's chest tightens. He doesn't answer. The storm lowers a fraction. Draco's gaze remains locked on him. I was a coward, Draco says evenly. There. Does that satisfy you? The wind quiets further. The air feels thinner. Harry's anger flickers uncertainly. You were cruel, he says. The wind stirs again, but not violently. Yes, Draco agrees. Harry's throat feels dry. You wanted me dead. The wind surges. Draco steps closer again. Close enough that their shoulders nearly brush. I wanted you gone, Draco corrects quietly. Because you made everything harder. The storm hesitates. Harry's voice is tight. Harder how? Draco's jaw flexes. Because you were proof that I could have chosen differently. The storm drops sharply. Silence crashes down inside the cabin. The fire steadies. The air warms faintly. Harry stares at him. You think I don't know what you see when you look at me? Draco continues quietly. You see the boy who took the mark. You see the boy who hesitated too late. The wind remains low. You don't see the boy who was terrified. Harry swallows. The storm hums like distant thunder instead of a scream. He forces himself to speak carefully. You nearly killed Dumbledore. The wind flares briefly. Draco closes his eyes for a heartbeat. I couldn't, he says. The wind lowers again. Harry feels something shifting. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But balance. You think I don't replay that tower? Draco continues quietly. You think I don't remember lowering my wand? The storm stills further. Harry's chest tightens. He remembers. He remembers the tremor in Draco's hand. The fear. The hesitation. He had never said it aloud. The wind is almost quiet now. You lowered it, Harry says. Draco's eyes flick up. The storm settles to a low, steady hum. The cabin stops trembling. For the first time since the artifact exploded, the air feels still. They stand too close. Breathing the same air. Harry realizes his anger feels thinner. Less sharp. The storm is no longer straining against the walls. It is listening. Draco exhales slowly. I never wanted you dead, he says quietly. I wanted you gone because you made it impossible to pretend I wasn't wrong. The words hang heavy between them. Harry's pulse slows slightly. The storm softens further. Not gone. But quieter. Harry's voice lowers. I hated you, he says honestly. Because you made it easy to. The wind flickers but does not rise. Draco's lips curve faintly. Yes, Harry swallows. But I never wanted you dead. The storm falls almost completely silent. The fire crackles gently. Outside, the vortex still churns, but slower. Less violent. Draco's shoulders relax fractionally. They are standing so close now that Harry can feel the warmth radiating between them. The bed behind them no longer feels like a threat. It feels inevitable. Harry steps back half a pace. The wind stirs slightly. Draco does not move. Alignment, Draco murmurs. Harry nods once. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But truth. And the storm, for now, is satisfied. The quiet does not last. It never does. For several minutes, the cabin remains almost peaceful. The fire burns low but stable. The wind outside hums instead of screams. Harry allows himself to breathe. Draco moves first, stepping back toward the hearth. The added distance is small, measured, but noticeable. The storm stirs faintly. Not violent. Curious. Harry notices it immediately. Careful, he says. Draco nods once, as if acknowledging a shared experiment, and remains within range. The silence stretches. Neither of them knows what to say next. There are only so many war confessions one can offer before the air grows too heavy to stand in. Harry moves toward the table, gathering the unspeakable's case again. He needs something practical to focus on. The crystal recorder rests inside, dim but intact. He hesitates, then reactivates it. The distorted voice fills the cabin again. Continued exposure intensifies subject response. One researcher reported heightened emotional recall. Artifact appears to draw from memory as catalyst. The audio glitches violently. Then resumes. Field destabilization linked to unresolved trauma. Static bursts through the room. The word echoes longer than it should. Trauma. The storm outside deepens in tone. Not a roar. A vibration. Harry feels it in his ribs. Draco goes very still. Too still. Harry lowers the crystal slowly. Malfoy. No response. Draco's eyes are fixed on nothing. His breathing has shifted, shallow. Rapid. The storm pulses once. Hard. Harry steps closer instinctively. The wind lowers slightly. Draco's hand tightens around the back of the chair beside him. His knuckles blanch white. Malfoy. Draco blinks slowly, as if resurfacing. I'm fine, he says. The storm spikes. The door ward flickers dangerously. Harry swears under his breath and closes the space between him completely. The wind drops. Draco's breathing does not. His chest rises too fast. Too shallow. The fire flickers uncertainly. Harry recognizes it then. Not fear of the storm. Something older. Deeper. A memory. Look at me, Harry says quietly. Draco's gaze flicks toward him but doesn't focus. The storm vibrates faintly. Harry steps closer again, close enough that their sleeves brush. The wind steadies. Draco inhales sharply, as if dragged back into his body. Don't, Draco mutters. Don't what? Don't treat me like I'm fragile. The wind surges slightly. Harry keeps his voice even. I'm not. Draco's jaw clenches. The air in the cabin shifts. The fire flares brighter without reason. Harry understands suddenly. The artifact isn't just feeding on hostility. It's digging. Pulling old memories forward. Harry lowers his voice further. What did it show you? Draco's breath stutters. Nothing. The wind spikes violently. The walls tremble. Harry steps closer again until there is barely any space left between them. The storm lowers to a harsh but contained roar. Draco's eyes squeeze shut briefly. Malfoy. Draco's voice is thinner now. The drawing room, he says before he can stop himself. The wind hums deeper. Harry's chest tightens. Malfoy Manor. The night they were captured. The moment Draco was asked to identify him. Draco inhales sharply. I can still hear it, he says quietly. The silence before I answered, the storm pulses. Harry remembers that silence too. Draco's fingers curl into the fabric of his own sleeve. They were all watching, Draco says. Waiting. The wind vibrates like a held breath. Harry's voice is steady, though his pulse is not. You didn't confirm it. Draco laughs once, brittle. I hesitated. The storm flickers uncertainly. Harry shakes his head slightly. You didn't confirm it, he repeats. The wind lowers further. Draco opens his eyes slowly. For the first time since this began, he looks unguarded. You think that makes it noble? Draco asks quietly. I think it mattered. The storm settles to a low hum. Draco exhales shakily. The tension in his shoulders loosens fractionally. Harry realizes he is still standing very close. Too close. But the storm remains calm. Draco's breathing slows gradually. Harry does not move away. Not yet. The fire steadies fully. The air warms slightly. Draco looks at him carefully now. You remember that? He asks. Yes. Why? Harry hesitates. The wind stirs faintly. Because I didn't understand it at the time, Harry says honestly. And I've been trying to ever since. The storm softens further. Draco studies him as if seeing something new. The silence stretches, but it is not hostile. Not sharp. The artifact's influence shifts again. Less violent. More invasive. Harry realizes something else. The storm does not only respond to anger. It responds to fear. To memory. To whatever they refuse to look at. Draco exhales slowly. I thought if I hesitated long enough, someone else would say it, he says quietly. The wind hums lower. But they didn't. Harry swallows. You didn't say it. Draco's gaze drops briefly. No. The storm quiets almost completely. The cabin holds steady. Harry realizes his hand is inches from Draco's wrist. He does not move it. Draco does not step away. The air between them feels charged, but not violently. Vulnerably. Draco straightens slowly. The panic has passed. But something else lingers in its wake. Something heavier. Something closer to truth. Harry steps back carefully. The storm stirs slightly, but does not rage. Progress. Draco moves toward the hearth again, slower now. Measured. The fire burns warmer than before. The storm circles the cabin quietly. Waiting. Watching. And Harry understands now, this is not just about conflict. It is about everything they buried after. The storm no longer screams. It hums. A low, circling presence beyond the stone walls. Not gone. Not satisfied. But listening. Harry stands near the hearth, watching the flames catch more easily now. The air in the cabin feels warmer than it did the night before, though no new wood has been added. Draco remains within that invisible radius, 3 steps at most. Not touching. Not distant. Measured. The silence between them is different now. Less sharp. More aware. Harry studies the wardstone near the door again. Fine cracks still thread through the outer runes. The storm has not weakened, it has simply stabilized. It's learning, Harry says quietly. Draco tilts his head slightly. Or we are. Harry glances at him. Draco's expression is calm. Composed. But not distant. Harry takes a slow breath. We need to understand the threshold. Draco arches a brow faintly. You want to experiment? Yes. Draco considers that, then nods once. Controlled variables. Harry steps toward the center of the room. Draco mirrors him instinctively. The storm remains steady. Distance first, Harry says. He takes 1 step back. The wind stirs faintly. Another step. The cabin floor vibrates. Draco remains still. Harry takes a 3rd step. The storm rises sharply, walls creaking under pressure. Draco closes the gap quickly. The storm drops. Not to quiet, but to manageable. Harry nods once. 3 steps. Draco's voice is thoughtful. Proximity dampens the field. Harry hesitates. Not just proximity. Draco studies him. Intent, Draco says. Harry swallows. Try it. Draco's expression sharpens slightly. Clarify. Harry steps closer deliberately. Not because the storm demands it, but because he chooses to. The wind softens further. The air warms. Draco's breath stills. Harry holds his position. The storm remains low. Draco steps closer as well. Not forced. Not reacting. Choosing. The wind drops another degree. The fire steadies fully. The cabin no longer trembles. Harry feels the shift in his chest. This isn't just about anger, he says quietly. No, Draco's voice is softer than before. It never was. Harry's pulse ticks faster. He steps half a pace back deliberately. The storm stirs, but only slightly. He steps forward again. The wind quiets. Draco watches him carefully. You're controlling it, Draco says. Harry shakes his head slightly. We are. The storm hums gently. Draco inhales slowly. Physical contact dampened it most strongly, he says. Harry feels the weight of that. Yes. A beat. Neither moves. The fire pops softly. Outside, snow continues spiraling upward in the vortex, but the violence has lessened. Harry's hand hovers at his side. Close enough that if he extended his fingers, Draco notices. The air tightens slightly. Harry doesn't reach. Instead, he lowers his voice. What else does it react to? Draco's gaze sharpens faintly. Emotion. Which ones? Draco studies him. Suppressed ones. The word lands heavier than it should. Harry feels something coil low in his stomach. The storm hums softly, almost content. Draco steps closer again. Now they are within arm's reach. Breath mixing. The heat between them feels different now. Not survival. Not just stability. Awareness. Harry swallows. Say something honest, he says quietly. Draco's eyes hold his. You were never what I expected, Draco replies. The storm lowers further. The air warms. Harry's pulse jumps. That's not specific. Draco's lips twitch faintly. You want specifics? Yes. Draco studies him a moment longer. You were kinder than I wanted you to be. The wind falters. Harry exhales slowly. That's ridiculous. Draco's voice lowers. It made it harder. The storm remains steady. Harry feels something shift. He forces his own honesty. You were braver than I admitted. The storm drops almost completely silent. The cabin feels still. Too still. Draco's breath catches slightly. The distance between them feels charged now. Not volatile. Electric. Harry feels the pull of it. The artifact's echo hums softly outside like distant thunder. Draco's voice is quieter. You watched me. It isn't a question. Harry doesn't deny it. Yes, the storm holds. Draco steps even closer. Their shoulders nearly brush. And you still do, Draco says softly. The wind does not rise. It settles. Harry's heartbeat thunders in his ears. Yes, he says. The word feels dangerous. The air grows warmer. The fire burns steady and bright. The storm circles calmly outside. Recognition settles between them. This isn't just unresolved hatred. It never was. The artifact did not create something new. It exposed something old. Draco's gaze drops briefly to Harry's mouth. The wind stirs faintly, but not violently. Harry notices. He doesn't move. The space between them feels impossibly thin now. Draco inhales slowly. You should step back, he says quietly. Harry doesn't. The storm hums. Soft. Waiting. Recognition has shifted into tension. And neither of them knows what to do with it. Night returns slowly. The storm dims with the fading light, but it does not weaken. It circles the cabin in slow, deliberate sweeps. Not violent. Not yet. Harry has not moved far from where they stood earlier. Neither has Draco. The air between them feels altered. Charged. The fire throws long shadows across the stone walls. The single bed waits behind them like a quiet witness. Harry clears his throat and steps away first. The storm stirs faintly. Not sharply. Just enough to remind them. Draco watches him cross toward the hearth. You're testing the limits again, Draco says quietly. Harry doesn't look at him. I'm thinking. About what? Harry exhales slowly. About whether this storm quiets because we're close, or because we stop pretending. The wind hums softly. Draco's voice lowers. And which do you think it is? Harry turns. Their eyes meet across the small cabin. Both. The storm vibrates faintly, as if pleased. Draco steps closer. Deliberately. Not because the storm demands it. Because he chooses to. The wind lowers. Harry's pulse jumps. They are within arm's reach again. The firelight flickers over Draco's face, softening the edges that once seemed sharper in childhood memory. You've been watching me, Draco says quietly. Yes. For how long? Harry swallows. Since the war. The storm dips. Draco studies him carefully. And what did you see? Harry hesitates. The wind stirs faintly. I saw someone trying, he says honestly. The storm quiets further. Draco's breath catches almost imperceptibly. You hated me, Draco says. I did. The wind hums low. And now, Harry's chest tightens. The air feels thinner. I don't know, he says. The storm waits. Draco steps even closer. Now they are barely inches apart. Harry can feel the warmth radiating from Draco's body. The fire crackles softly. You do know, Draco says. The words are quiet. Certain. Harry's pulse pounds. The storm hums deeper. He doesn't answer. Draco's hand lifts slightly, as if to gesture, then pauses midair. Their gazes lock. Harry's breathing slows. Draco's fingers hover just above Harry's sleeve. The wind stills almost completely. Harry feels it. The shift. The edge. Draco's voice drops to barely a whisper. Say it. The storm holds its breath. Harry's throat feels tight. I don't hate you, he says. The wind drops. The cabin grows still. The fire steadies into a clean, golden glow. Draco's gaze flicks briefly to Harry's mouth. Then back to his eyes. The air between them thickens. Harry's hand moves before he can think. He catches Draco's wrist. The contact sends a ripple outward. The storm falls nearly silent. Draco inhales sharply. Their bodies are close enough now that Harry can feel the rise and fall of Draco's chest. Don't, Draco murmurs. But he doesn't pull away. Harry doesn't release him. You said honesty, Harry replies quietly. Draco's eyes darken. The wind hums faintly, anticipatory. Harry steps closer. The mattress creaks faintly behind Draco as his back nearly brushes the edge of the bed. The storm remains silent. Too silent. Draco's breath warms Harry's cheek. You don't get to look at me like that, Draco says softly. Like what? Like I matter. The wind stirs faintly. Harry's grip tightens slightly at Draco's wrist. You do. The storm goes still. Completely. Draco's breath falters. The air feels electric. Harry's gaze drops, just briefly, to Draco's mouth. Draco notices. He leans forward. Just slightly. Their foreheads almost touch. The storm does not move. Harry feels the pull. Years of tension collapsing inward. He closes the final inch of space. Their lips brush, barely. Soft. Tentative. The storm explodes. A violent gust slams into the cabin walls. The door ward flares dangerously. The fire surges high, sparks flying upward. Draco jerks back instantly. The contact breaks. The wind howls. The cabin trembles. Harry stumbles half a step forward instinctively. Draco's back hits the edge of the bed. His chest rises sharply. That, Draco breathes, is not alignment, the storm screams. Harry swallows hard. Then what is? Draco's jaw tightens. Control. The wind rattles the beams overhead. Harry steps back slowly. The storm lowers slightly. Not calm. Not yet. Draco's hand presses briefly against his own mouth, as if grounding himself. His voice steadies. You cannot treat this like an impulse. The storm hums louder. Harry's pulse is still racing. It wasn't. Draco's eyes flash. The wind spikes again. Harry forces himself to breathe. No antagonism, he mutters. Draco exhales slowly. The storm steadies to a heavy roar. They stand facing each other. Breathing hard. The kiss lingers in the air like smoke. Neither acknowledges it again. But neither denies it either. The storm has shifted. It no longer feels merely reactive. It feels aware. And it is far from finished with them. The storm does not forget. It circles the cabin in long, deliberate sweeps, no longer screaming, but not quiet either. The wind scrapes across the stone like a slow inhale. Inside, the air feels different. Thinner. Charged with something neither of them names. Harry stands near the hearth, heart still beating too fast. Draco remains by the bed, posture rigid, expression carefully neutral. The almost kiss hangs between them. Unfinished. Unresolved. The fire crackles softly. Control, Draco says finally, voice level. We need control. Harry nods once. The storm hums faintly at the word. They return to their earlier positions, 2 paces apart. Not touching. Not distant. Measured. Harry forces his breathing steady. Draco's composure is nearly restored, but there is a tension in his jaw that wasn't there before. The silence stretches. The storm shifts. Subtle. A new tone threads through the wind, lower, almost melodic. Harry frowns slightly. Do you hear that? Draco's eyes narrow. Yes. The fire flickers without reason. The air in the cabin ripples faintly. And then, a figure stands near the door. Harry's breath catches. Ginny. Not solid. Not fully real. But unmistakable. Her hair glows copper in the firelight. Her expression is calm, almost distant. Harry's pulse stumbles. The storm hums deeper. Draco goes very still. The illusion does not speak. It simply looks at Harry. The wind outside swirls gently. Not violent. Testing. Harry steps toward the figure instinctively. The storm sharpens immediately. The door ward flickers. Potter, Draco says sharply. Harry stops. The illusion remains. Watching. Harry swallows. It's not real, he says aloud. The figure's eyes flick briefly toward Draco. And then, it shifts. Now it is Blaise Zabini standing where Ginny was. Calm. Composed. Too close to Draco. Harry's chest tightens unexpectedly. The storm hums louder. Draco's jaw tightens. The illusion of Blaise steps closer to Draco. Harry's fingers curl involuntarily. The wind spikes sharply. The cabin trembles. Draco turns slowly toward Harry. That's interesting, he says evenly. Harry doesn't answer. The storm vibrates more intensely. The illusion shifts again. Now it is someone else at Draco's side, tall, faceless, indistinct but intimate. Harry's pulse jumps harder. The wind surges violently. The door ward flashes gold. Stop reacting, Draco says quietly. Harry exhales sharply. I'm not. The storm screams. Draco steps closer quickly. The wind lowers slightly. The illusions remain. Harry's gaze is locked on the figure near Draco. It leans closer. Too close. Harry steps forward. The storm spikes violently. The walls groan under pressure. Draco closes the remaining distance between them abruptly. The illusions flicker. The wind lowers. Jealousy, Draco says quietly. Harry's jaw tightens. Don't. The storm stirs sharply. Draco's voice is calm. You're reacting more strongly than before. The illusion shifts again. Now Ginny stands near Harry once more. Her hand almost reaches for him. Draco's gaze flicks to it. The wind hums louder. Harry's throat feels dry. It's feeding on it, he says. Yes. Draco's voice lowers. On what we won't admit, the illusions shimmer. Harry looks at Ginny. She looks almost real. Almost warm. Almost safe. The storm hums. Harry exhales slowly. That ended years ago, he says quietly. The illusion flickers. The wind lowers slightly. Draco's gaze sharpens. And Zabini? Harry asks before he can stop himself. The wind surges sharply. Draco's eyes flash. Zabini was never. The storm roars. The cabin shudders. Draco steps closer, nearly chest to chest now. It doesn't matter, Draco says firmly. The wind lowers slightly. Harry's pulse is still racing. It clearly does. The storm vibrates violently again. Draco's hand catches Harry's sleeve without thinking. The contact sends a ripple outward. The illusions falter. The wind drops significantly. They freeze. The figures near the door flicker again, then fade completely. The cabin grows still. Only the low hum of the storm remains. Harry's breath is uneven. Draco's hand remains at his sleeve. Neither pulls away. "You care," Draco says softly. The wind hums. Harry swallows. "You care," he replies. The storm settles further. Draco's gaze holds his. "That is inconvenient." Harry huffs a quiet, breathless laugh. Yes, the storm quiets more than it has since the artifact exploded. Jealousy acknowledged. Not suppressed. Not denied. Harry feels the tension shifting again. Not hostility. Not fear. Something sharper. More honest. Draco's hand slides down from Harry's sleeve slowly. But he does not step back. The space between them remains small. Deliberate. The storm hums gently. Satisfied. For now. The illusions are gone. But the tension remains. Harry and Draco stand close enough that the warmth between them feels intentional now. The storm outside hums low and circling, as though waiting for the next shift. Jealousy acknowledged. Truth exposed. The air inside the cabin feels steadier. Not calm. Balanced. Draco's hand has fallen from Harry's sleeve, but he has not stepped away. Neither has Harry. The fire burns brighter than before, casting steady gold across stone. "You care," Draco says again, softer this time. The wind hums in response, not violently, but attentively. Harry exhales slowly. "I didn't say that." Draco's gaze sharpens. "You didn't deny it either." The wind stirs faintly. Harry's pulse ticks faster. "This isn't about," he starts. The storm surges. The walls tremble sharply. Draco's jaw tightens. "Don't," he says. Harry forces himself to breathe. The wind lowers. He looks away briefly. This is the edge. The place where alignment fractures. Draco's voice drops lower. "I stopped hating you years ago." The words land like a physical thing. The storm goes still. Completely still. Harry's breath catches. Draco continues, gaze steady. "I told myself it was resentment. That it was habit. That it was easier." The fire steadies further. The air warms. But it wasn't. Harry's chest tightens painfully. The storm hums softly. "I watched you," Draco says quietly. "Every time you walked into a room, the wind remains low." Harry's pulse is loud in his ears. "You don't get to say that," Harry murmurs. The storm stirs. Draco steps closer. "You wanted honesty." The wind lowers again. Harry swallows. Draco's voice is quieter now. "I stopped hating you the moment you lowered your wand in the manner the storm holds." Harry's throat feels tight. "That doesn't make sense," he says. "It does." The wind hums faintly. Draco's eyes remain fixed on his. "You could have cursed me," Draco says. "You didn't." Harry's breath stutters. The storm softens further. Draco takes another half step forward. Now there is barely space between them. "I thought I hated you because you were good," Draco says. "But I hated you because I wanted to be." The wind drops to near silence. Harry feels something cracking open in his chest. Dangerous. Unfamiliar. You're rewriting history, Harry says, but his voice lacks conviction. The storm surges violently. The walls shake. The fire flares dangerously high. Draco stiffens. There, he says sharply. That. Harry steps back instinctively. The wind explodes in response. The cabin groans under the pressure. The door ward flickers dangerously. Denial. The storm feeds on it instantly. Harry feels the pressure slam against him like a wall. I'm not rewriting anything, Draco snaps. You just don't want it to mean something. The wind howls. Harry's chest rises too fast. This is manipulation, he says. The storm screams. The ceiling beams crack loudly. Draco moves forward abruptly, closing the distance again. The wind lowers slightly. It is not manipulation, Draco says firmly. It is truth. Harry shakes his head. You don't just decide that. The wind surges again. The cabin shudders violently. Dust rains down. The storm is angrier now. Not jealous. Not curious. Fractured. Draco's eyes darken. You're afraid, he says quietly. The wind drops suddenly. The air becomes heavy. Harry's pulse pounds. Of what? He demands. Draco steps closer. Close enough that their chests nearly brush. Of wanting something that contradicts everything you built yourself around, the storm hums low. Harry's breath falters. You think this is that simple? He asks. The wind stirs. Draco's voice is steady. No, I think it's that dangerous. The word hangs between them. Dangerous. The storm tightens. Harry's voice drops. You think I haven't thought about it? The wind stills slightly. Draco's breath catches. Harry feels the shift too late. The storm hums, waiting. He hesitates. And that hesitation is enough. The wind explodes. The cabin shakes violently. The fire nearly extinguishes under the pressure. The fracture is immediate. Draco's gaze hardens. You were about to say it, Draco says quietly. Harry's jaw tightens. I don't, the storm screams. The door ward flashes dangerously. Draco's hand shoots out, gripping Harry's arm. The contact steadies the room slightly. You were about to admit it, Draco says. Harry's heart races. The storm hums violently but does not peak. Because Draco is holding him. Because proximity is stabilizing it. Because denial is colliding with truth. Harry's voice lowers to barely a whisper. I don't know what this is. The storm lowers a fraction. Draco's grip loosens. But it's not nothing. The wind drops sharply. The cabin grows still. The fracture mends slightly. Draco studies him carefully. You're halfway there, Draco murmurs. Harry exhales shakily. The storm settles into a low, restless hum. Alignment is not complete. Not yet. But it is closer. And the storm knows it. The storm is no longer patient. It circles once, twice, then tightens. Harry feels it before he hears it. A sudden drop in pressure, like the air being pulled from the room. The fire dims unnaturally. The light in the cabin flickers gold to blue. Draco's hand is still wrapped around Harry's arm. Neither has moved. The hum outside shifts into something sharper. Hungry. You felt that, Draco says quietly. Yes. The first crack sounds like distant thunder. But it's not the sky. It's the wardstone. A thin fracture splits across the glowing rune at the door. Harry swears under his breath. That's new. Draco releases his arm slowly and turns toward the ward. The moment the contact breaks, the storm slams into the cabin with violent force. The door shudders inward. The ward flashes gold, then sputters. Harry closes the space between them instantly. The storm lowers, but not enough. It has escalated. It wants more. Draco's eyes flick to Harry. This is escalation. No, Harry replies, pulse racing. This is pressure. The second crack splits across the ward. The door trembles violently. Outside, the vortex churns tighter, snow spiraling upward into the sky like a reversed avalanche. Harry raises his wand and casts a reinforcement charm. The spell catches, but flickers. Draco steps closer, lifting his wand as well. Their shoulders brush. The storm pauses. Not still, but watching. On 3, Draco says quietly. Harry nods. They press their palms against the door, wands angled outward. 1. The wind screams. 2. The ward flickers dangerously. 3. They cast together. A surge of magic explodes from their hands. And the storm answers. Violently. The cabin shakes so hard the bed frame rattles against the wall. The window slit splinters slightly at the edges. Harry feels the backlash slam into him like a physical blow. He stumbles, Draco catches him. Their bodies collide. The storm falters. Just slightly. Harry looks up sharply. Draco's grip tightens at his waist. The air shifts. Again, Draco says. Harry nods once. They reposition, closer now, almost chest to chest. Their hands lift simultaneously. But this time, Draco hesitates. The storm surges instantly. The ward cracks further. Stop thinking, Harry snaps. Draco's jaw tightens. They press their hands together against the wood. Palm to palm. Wandless. Skin to skin. And cast. The effect is immediate. Magic erupts outward, not in a violent surge, but in a stabilizing wave. The storm shrieks. The ward seals partially. Harry feels the power flowing differently now. Not separate. Intertwined. Their magic meshes in the contact. Not colliding. Blending. The storm recoils. Snow slams sideways outside. The door glows brighter. Draco's breath hitches. Do you feel that? He asks. Yes, it's not just the ward stabilizing. It's something else. Their magic is responding to each other. Amplifying instead of clashing. The storm surges again. Stronger. The ward buckles. Harry's heart pounds. Don't let go, he says. Draco's fingers tighten instinctively against his. Their foreheads nearly touch as they push more power forward. The storm howls violently. The cabin trembles on its foundation. The fire flares white hot. Harry feels the strain building. This isn't enough. The storm wants alignment. Not force. Look at me, Draco says sharply. Harry does. Their eyes lock. The storm screams. The ward fractures again. Stop resisting it, Draco says. I'm not. You are. The wind surges. Harry realizes it's true. He's bracing against it. Against Draco. Against what this means. The storm feeds on that resistance. Draco's voice drops. You said it's not nothing. The storm hums violently. Harry's pulse thunders. He forces himself to let go of the fight. Not the magic. The resistance. He steps closer. Their bodies press fully together now. Magic still flowing through their palms. The storm falters sharply. The ward brightens. Draco's breath is warm against his mouth. Say it, Draco whispers. The storm holds. Harry swallows. I want you, he says. The words tear free before he can stop them. The storm collapses inward. Not gone. But stunned. The ward seals fully in a brilliant flash of light. Silence crashes over the cabin. The wind outside reduces to a distant, hollow roar. Harry and Draco remain pressed together, palms still touching the door. Breathing hard. Magic humming between them like a living thing. Draco's eyes search his. You finally stopped fighting it, Draco murmurs. Harry's heart is still racing. So did you. The storm hums faintly outside. Not violent. Not angry. Expectant. Harry lowers their hands slowly. The magic between them fades to a steady warmth. But neither of them steps away. Not this time. The breaking point has passed. And something irreversible has shifted. The silence after the surge feels unreal. Harry and Draco remain pressed together in front of the sealed door, breath mingling, magic still humming faintly beneath their skin. The wardstone glows steady now, stronger than it has been since they arrived. Outside, the storm does not rage. It circles. Low. Restless. Waiting. Harry becomes aware of every point of contact all at once. Their chests touching. Their thighs aligned. Draco's hands still loosely curled around his. No spell binding him now. No ward demanding proximity. Just choice. Draco exhales slowly. You said it, he murmurs. Harry swallows. Yes, the word feels different out loud. Less dangerous. More honest. Draco studies him carefully, pale eyes darker in the firelight. Say it again, he says quietly. The storm hums faintly. Harry's pulse spikes. You don't get to order me, he replies automatically. The wind stirs. Not violently. But sharply. Draco's mouth curves faintly. Then don't do it because I asked. The challenge lands between them. Harry feels the old instinct, to argue, to deflect, but it feels thinner now. Easier to step past. He doesn't move away. I want you, he says again. The storm drops almost completely silent. The fire steadies into a warm, even glow. Draco's breath catches. For a long second, neither of them moves. Then Draco steps forward. The contact deepens. Not accidental. Not reactive. Deliberate. You're infuriating, Draco murmurs. Harry huffs a breath that almost becomes a laugh. You started this. The wind flickers faintly. Draco's hand slides up from Harry's wrist to his shoulder. The touch is slow. Testing. Harry's skin prickles under it. You almost kissed me earlier, Draco says. You leaned in. The storm hums softly. Draco's gaze drops briefly to Harry's mouth, then rises again. And now, Draco asks. Harry doesn't answer. He closes the distance. This time there is no hesitation. Their lips meet properly. Not tentative. Not brushing. Firm. Heat spreads instantly through Harry's chest, down his spine. Draco responds just as quickly, hand tightening at Harry's shoulder, fingers pressing into fabric. The storm outside exhales. Not a scream. A long, low sigh. Harry deepens the kiss without thinking, years of tension collapsing into something immediate and consuming. Draco makes a soft, startled sound against his mouth, then leans in harder. There is no gentleness in it at first. Only friction. Pent-up want. Harry's hand slides instinctively to Draco's waist, pulling him closer. The mattress creaks faintly behind him as they stumble back. The fire flares brighter. The storm remains quiet. Not suppressed. Satisfied. Draco's fingers slide into Harry's hair, tugging just enough to draw a breathless reaction from him. Harry breaks the kiss briefly. They stare at each other, both breathing harder. That, Draco says softly, voice unsteady, is not tactical. Harry's mouth curves faintly. No, the storm hums low. Harry leans in again. The second kiss is slower. Less collision. More exploration. Draco's hand shifts from his hair to the back of his neck, holding him there. Harry feels the warmth of it everywhere. The air inside the cabin grows noticeably warmer. The fire no longer flickers under pressure. It burns steady and strong. The storm circles outside like a quiet witness. Harry's other hand slides from Draco's waist to his lower back, drawing him flush against him. Draco inhales sharply. Potter, Harry, he corrects softly. The wind hums in agreement. Draco's lips brush his again. Harry, he repeats. The sound of his name on Draco's mouth feels more destabilizing than the storm ever did. They kiss again. Longer. Slower. The sharp edges of old resentment melting under heat. Harry feels Draco relax into him fully now. Not bracing. Not resisting. Choosing. The storm lowers further still. Almost calm. Harry pulls back only when breath demands it. They remain close, foreheads touching. The cabin feels different. Lighter. The ward no longer strains. The air no longer bites. Draco exhales softly. You realize this complicates everything. Harry lets out a quiet breath. It already was complicated. The storm hums faintly. Draco studies him. Say it again, he murmurs. Harry's pulse kicks. I want you. The wind outside fades further. Not gone. But distant. Draco's mouth curves faintly. Good, he says softly. And kisses him again. The warmth lingers long after the kiss ends. Harry can still feel it in his chest, in his hands, in the place where Draco's fingers had tightened in his hair. The fire burns steady and strong. The storm outside has softened to a low, distant spiral. For the first time since the artifact exploded, the cabin feels almost peaceful. Almost. Draco is the first to move. He steps back. Only a few inches. But enough. The wind stirs faintly. Harry notices immediately. Draco smooths a hand down the front of his robes, regaining composure with visible effort. His breathing evens. His expression sharpens into something more controlled. That, Draco says evenly, was ill-advised. The wind spikes sharply. The fire flares. Harry's jaw tightens. Was it? Draco's gaze flicks to the doorward, then back to Harry. We are in the middle of a magical anomaly keyed to emotional instability. The storm hums louder. You think this was instability? Harry asks quietly. Draco hesitates. The wind trembles. It was reactive, Draco replies carefully. The storm surges violently. The cabin shakes. The door ward flashes gold. Harry feels the pressure slam into his chest. Don't, he says sharply. Draco steps closer instinctively, lowering the surge slightly. I'm being practical, Draco says. The wind howls. Harry steps forward fully, closing the space between them. The storm lowers. You don't get to reduce that to practicality, Harry says, voice low. Draco's eyes flash. You don't get to pretend this is uncomplicated. The storm spikes again. The fire gutters violently. The air thickens. Harry exhales sharply, forcing control. No antagonism, he mutters. Draco's jaw tightens. The wind lowers a fraction. But not fully. The fracture has reopened. Harry takes a slow breath. What are you afraid of? He asks. The storm hums. Draco's gaze sharpens defensively. I'm not afraid. The wind explodes. The cabin groans. Harry steps closer again, almost chest to chest. Stop lying, he says quietly. The storm lowers. Draco's breath stutters once before he steadies it. This changes things, Draco says. Yes. We cannot just, Draco gestures vaguely between them. Ignore the implications, the wind hums louder. Harry studies him carefully. I'm not asking to ignore them, Draco's eyes flicker. Then what are you asking? Harry hesitates. The storm rises immediately. He feels it pushing. Testing. He forces himself to answer. I'm asking you not to pretend it meant nothing. The wind drops sharply. The cabin steadies. Draco exhales slowly. I never said it meant nothing, he replies quietly. The storm remains low. Harry searches his face. You implied it. Draco's mouth twitches faintly. I implied it was dangerous. The wind hums. Harry lets out a slow breath. It is. The admission shifts something. The storm softens. Draco's shoulders relax slightly. We are trapped in a magical field keyed to suppressed conflict, Draco says calmly. If we allow this to become volatile, Harry interrupts. It wasn't volatile. The wind stirs. Draco's gaze holds his. It was intense. Harry doesn't deny it. The storm hums low. They stand in silence for several seconds. The fire crackles gently. Outside, the vortex continues to spiral, but without fury. Harry steps back carefully. The storm stirs, but does not surge. Draco watches him closely. This is the test. Can they separate without denial? Harry keeps his voice steady. I'm not pretending it didn't happen. The wind remains low. Draco nods slowly. Nor am I. The storm settles further. The fracture closes. Not fully. But enough. Harry runs a hand through his hair. This isn't just about the storm anymore. Draco's lips curve faintly. It never was. The wind hums in quiet agreement. Harry glances toward the bed, then back at Draco. You don't regret it, he says. It isn't a question. Draco's gaze softens slightly. No. The storm lowers to a near whisper. Harry feels something unclench in his chest. Draco steps closer again, not out of necessity, but choice. The storm remains calm. Harry exhales slowly. Then don't reduce it, he says quietly. Draco studies him for a long moment. I won't. The storm outside circles gently. Not hostile. Not hungry. For now. The kiss cannot be undone. The admission cannot be withdrawn. The alignment is incomplete, but stronger than before. And the storm is listening. The storm does not rage. It circles. Quiet. Persistent. A low current beneath the silence of the cabin. Harry stands near the hearth, hands braced lightly against the stone, trying to slow his thoughts. The fire burns steady now, no longer flickering in protest. The air is warm enough that the earlier cold feels like memory. Draco watches him. Not casually. Intently. You're still holding back, Draco says at last. The wind hums faintly. Harry doesn't turn immediately. I said I wasn't pretending. That isn't the same thing. The storm stirs, not violently, but pointed. Harry exhales and turns slowly. Draco stands only a few paces away. Within range. Close enough that the storm remains stable. You think I haven't admitted enough? Harry asks. Draco tilts his head slightly. You admitted desire, not context. The wind deepens in tone. Harry's pulse picks up. Context, he repeats. Yes. Draco steps closer, not to provoke, but to hold the calm. You said you wanted me. You didn't say why. The storm waits. Harry swallows. Does it matter? The wind stirs sharply. Draco's voice lowers. Yes. The air tightens. Harry forces himself not to step back. It started with anger, he says carefully. The storm hums low. Draco's gaze doesn't waver. That's not what I'm asking. Harry's jaw tightens. You want honesty, he says. Yes. The wind steadies. Harry runs a hand over his face briefly. I watched you after the trials, he says quietly. The storm softens. Draco's expression flickers. I know. No. Harry replies. You don't. The wind stirs. Harry takes a slow breath. I watched you walk into court like you expected to be condemned, he says. And I wanted to hate you. I tried to. The storm lowers further. But you didn't, Draco says softly. Harry's throat tightens. No. The wind hums in quiet agreement. I kept waiting for you to slip, Harry continues. To prove I was right. Draco's eyes darken slightly. And you didn't. The storm quiets another degree. Harry steps closer deliberately. The wind does not rise. You didn't gloat, Harry says. You didn't make excuses. Draco's breath shifts. You rebuilt yourself quietly, Harry continues. And I didn't know what to do with that. The storm hums low. Draco studies him carefully. So you watched, Draco says. Yes. For how long? Harry doesn't hesitate this time. For years. The wind drops almost completely silent. Draco's composure cracks, just slightly. Harry feels it. I told myself it was vigilance, he says quietly. That it was professional caution, the storm hums softly. But it wasn't. Draco steps closer. Their shoulders nearly brush. The air warms. What was it? Draco asks. Harry meets his gaze. I couldn't look away. The storm settles. Draco inhales slowly. That is inconvenient, he murmurs. Harry huffs a breath. Yes. The wind remains calm. Draco's hand lifts, not hesitantly this time, but certain. His fingers brush Harry's wrist lightly. The storm remains steady. You're afraid of losing control, Draco says quietly. Harry's pulse jumps. Maybe. The wind stirs faintly. You've always needed to be certain, Draco continues. Certain you were right. Certain you were justified. Harry swallows. And this? He asks. Draco's thumb presses lightly against his pulse point. This isn't certain, Draco says softly. The storm hums deeper. Harry steps closer. The distance disappears. Maybe I don't need certainty, he says. The wind softens further. Draco studies him as if measuring the truth of it. And what do you need? Draco asks. Harry hesitates only briefly. You. The storm drops to a whisper. Draco's breath catches. The fire burns steady and bright. The cabin no longer strains. The alignment is stronger now. Not built on denial. Not on impulse. On choice. Draco's hand slides from Harry's wrist to his palm. Their fingers lace together. The storm remains calm. You took your time, Draco murmurs. Harry's mouth curves faintly. You're not easy. Draco's lips twitch. Neither are you. The wind circles gently outside. No longer violent. No longer hungry. Waiting. Harry squeezes Draco's hand slightly. I'm not holding back, he says quietly. Draco nods once. I know. The storm settles into its lowest hum yet. For the first time since the artifact detonated, the cabin feels almost safe. The storm is quiet. Not gone. But softened into a distant spiral beyond the stone walls. Inside the cabin, the fire burns warm and steady. The air no longer bites at their skin. The wardstone glows faintly, stable for the first time since the artifact shattered. Harry and Draco are still standing close, fingers laced together. Not because they must. Because they choose to. Harry can feel the shift in the air. The magic between them is no longer reactive. It's responsive. Draco studies him carefully. You're certain? Draco asks softly. Harry doesn't hesitate. Yes. The storm hums low, almost approving. Draco steps closer. Their bodies align fully now. No space left between them. The warmth spreads instantly. Not urgent. Not desperate. Deliberate. Harry lifts his free hand and rests it at Draco's waist, testing the contact. The storm remains calm. Draco's breath deepens. You're still thinking, Draco murmurs. Harry huffs quietly. I always think. Draco's hand slides from Harry's palm to his chest, pressing flat against his heartbeat. Stop. The word isn't a command. It's an invitation. Harry exhales slowly and leans forward. Their lips meet again. This time there is no collision. No argument. Just heat. Slow at first. Measured. Draco responds immediately, one hand sliding to the back of Harry's neck, fingers threading into his hair again, but without urgency. Harry's grip at Draco's waist tightens slightly, drawing him closer. The storm outside exhales in a long, low sweep. The fire flares warmer. Draco deepens the kiss first. Harry feels it in the shift of pressure, the slow glide of lips, the subtle tilt of Draco's head. He responds instinctively. Hands exploring, careful at first. Learning. Draco's fingers trace down Harry's collarbone, then lower, slow and deliberate. Harry's breath catches. The storm hums, not violently, steadily. The cabin feels warmer still. Harry steps forward, guiding Draco backward gently. The bed meets the back of Draco's knees. Draco sits slowly, never breaking the kiss. Harry follows. The mattress dips under their combined weight. The fire burns bright. The storm quiets further. Harry pulls back only long enough to look at him. Draco's hair is slightly disheveled now. His breathing heavier. His eyes darker. You're staring, Draco murmurs. Harry's hand slides along Draco's jaw, thumb brushing lightly over his cheek. I've been staring for years, he admits. The storm hums softly. Draco leans in again. This kiss is slower. Deeper. Harry feels Draco's hand slip beneath the edge of his shirt, fingertips grazing warm skin. His pulse spikes. Not from panic. From want. Harry mirrors the movement, fingers sliding beneath Draco's robes, feeling the warmth of him beneath layers of fabric. The storm remains calm. Magic hums faintly beneath their skin. Draco exhales softly against Harry's mouth. You're shaking, he murmurs. Harry laughs breathlessly. You're not. Draco's lips curve faintly. Less than you. Harry leans down, pressing a slow kiss along Draco's jaw, then lower, feeling Draco's breath catch. The storm circles quietly. Not demanding. Not reactive. Just present. Draco's hands tighten slightly at Harry's shoulders as Harry moves back up to meet his mouth again. Their movements become less cautious. Less testing. More certain. Clothes shift. Fabric loosens. Skin warms beneath wandering hands. The tension that once manifested as argument now burns in a different way. Controlled. Chosen. Harry feels Draco's fingers curl at his waist, pulling him closer, guiding rather than resisting. The storm remains subdued. The fire glows steady and bright. Harry pulls back just enough to breathe. Draco's gaze holds his, intense but unguarded. This is not survival, Draco says softly. No, the word feels powerful. Harry kisses him again. Slow. Confident. Hands exploring more boldly now, mapping the warmth beneath fabric, tracing lines that were once forbidden. The storm hums like distant thunder, but does not rise. Magic settles. Alignment strengthens. The storm is no longer feeding. It is stabilizing. Harry feels it. The difference. Draco exhales against his mouth again, voice low. You're sure? Harry answers by pulling him closer. The bed creaks softly. The fire glows golden. Outside, the vortex slows further. Not collapsing, but loosening. The storm is no longer hunting. It is listening to something else now. The heat between them deepens. Not frantic. Not reckless. Earned. Harry presses his forehead to Draco's. Breathing steady. The storm hums gently beyond the walls. And for the first time, it does not feel like a threat. Harry wakes slowly. Not to cold. Not to wind. To warmth. Real warmth. The fire has burned down to soft embers, painting the stone walls in low gold. The storm outside no longer screams or claws, it circles in a distant hush, like snowfall carried on a gentle current. Draco is beside him. Not rigid. Not braced. Sleeping. One arm draped loosely across Harry's waist. Their legs tangled beneath the blanket. The air between them calm, unthreatened. Harry lies still, watching the slow rise and fall of Draco's chest. This feels different from the first night. That had been necessity. This is choice. He studies Draco's face in the dim light. The sharp lines softened in sleep. The guarded composure gone. There is something intimate about seeing him like this, unguarded and unaware. Harry feels it again. Not heat. Not urgency. Something steadier. Draco shifts slightly, eyelids fluttering open. He doesn't pull away immediately this time. He blinks once, then focuses. Harry doesn't move. Neither does Draco. The storm hums faintly outside. Quiet. Observant. Morning, Harry says softly. Draco's lips curve faintly. It appears so. No immediate retreat. No sharp comment. Just quiet acknowledgement. Draco exhales slowly, fingers tightening briefly at Harry's side before relaxing again. The storm does not stir. Harry swallows. We're still here, he says. Yes, and the storm hasn't escalated. Draco's gaze drifts briefly toward the window slit. It has stabilized. Harry nods once. Neither of them moves away. The warmth remains. Harry shifts slightly closer, careful, deliberate. The storm remains calm. Draco watches him. You're testing it again, Draco murmurs. Harry shakes his head lightly. No, he brushes a slow thumb along Draco's wrist. The storm hums low. Just confirming. Draco's gaze softens slightly. You don't look uncertain, he says. Harry exhales quietly. I'm not. The word lands steady. The storm remains quiet. Draco studies him carefully. What happens when we leave? He asks. The question hangs heavier than the storm ever did. Harry doesn't answer immediately. The fire crackles softly. The air remains warm. We leave together, Harry says finally. The storm hums. Draco's expression shifts. That is not what I meant. Harry meets his gaze. I know. Silence stretches between them. But it is not hostile. Not strained. Draco's voice lowers. This is contained here, he says. Within this cabin, within this anomaly. The storm stirs faintly. Harry sits up slightly, propping himself on one elbow. It didn't start here, he says. The wind hums. Draco studies him. It started years ago, Harry continues quietly. We just didn't name it. The storm lowers further. Draco shifts onto his side, facing him fully now. You believe that? He asks. Yes. The answer is immediate. The wind outside softens again. Draco's fingers trace lightly along Harry's forearm, slow, almost absent-minded. You realize, Draco says softly, that once we leave this place, there will be no storm forcing honesty. Harry nods. There won't need to be. The storm hums low, like distant approval. Draco watches him closely. You are remarkably certain this morning. Harry smiles faintly. I'm tired of fighting something that isn't fighting me. The words settle between them. The storm remains calm. Draco's breath steadies. For the record, Draco says quietly, I do not regret it. Harry's chest loosens. Good. Draco's gaze flicks briefly to his mouth, then back to his eyes. And you? He asks. Harry leans forward slightly, brushing a slow kiss against Draco's lips. Not heated. Not urgent. Just real. The storm remains quiet. When he pulls back, he answers. No. Draco's fingers tighten briefly against his arm. The fire glows brighter in the hearth. Outside, the vortex has slowed noticeably. The storm is not gone. But it is no longer volatile. Harry shifts upright fully and swings his legs over the side of the bed. Draco follows more slowly. They sit side by side for a moment, shoulders brushing. No tension in the contact. No strain in the air. The storm circles like a memory instead of a threat. Harry glances toward the door ward. The cracks are faint now. Nearly sealed. It's weakening, he says. Draco nods. Yes. Harry looks back at him. We stabilized it. Draco's lips curve faintly. We stabilized ourselves. The storm hums softly outside. And for the first time, it feels like the end of something. Not the beginning of destruction. The end of denial. The calm does not last. It never truly does. Harry feels the shift first, not in the wind, not in the ward, but in the magic beneath the floor. A low tremor. Subtle. Wrong. He straightens immediately. Draco feels it half a second later. Their eyes meet. That wasn't us, Draco says quietly. The storm outside stirs. Not violent. But alert. The wardstone at the door pulses once, then twice, like a heartbeat misfiring. Harry steps toward it. The cracks that had nearly sealed begin glowing faintly from within. The vortex outside tightens again. Not in rage. In focus. It's reforming, Draco says. The fragment? No, Draco replies sharply. The core. The word lands heavily. Harry's pulse spikes. The artifact integrated with the atmospheric field, Draco continues. We dampened the emotional feedback, but the original spell structure remains. The ward flashes brighter. The wind rises. Not screaming. Building. Harry lifts his wand. We finish it. Draco nods once. This time there is no hesitation between them. No argument. They move together instinctively toward the door. The storm slams into the cabin. The ward strains, but holds. Harry presses his palm against the stone. Draco mirrors him immediately. Their magic flares outward in sync. Not colliding. Not testing. Aligned. The storm howls, but differently now. Not feeding. Resisting. The door bursts open under the pressure. Snow whips into the cabin in a spiral. Harry steps forward into the whiteout without thinking. Draco is at his side instantly. No distance. No threshold testing. The storm outside is no longer chaotic. It is concentrated. The vortex has narrowed into a central column of swirling snow and magic roughly 50 yards ahead. At its center, a black shard of metal spins violently. The artifact's heart. Harry squints against the wind. It's anchoring itself, he shouts. Yes. Draco raises his wand. They advance together, boots crunching through thick snow. The wind lashes against them, but weakens when their shoulders brush. The storm tries to separate them. Harry feels the pressure shift sideways, forcing him right. Draco's hand catches his sleeve instantly. The wind falters. They move forward as one. The shard pulses violently. Snow spirals upward in blinding arcs. Harry plants his feet. On my mark. Draco nods sharply. They raise their wands. But this time, they do not cast separately. Harry glances at Draco. Draco meets his gaze. No fear. No hesitation. Together, Draco says. Harry nods once. They intertwine their free hands. Skin to skin. Magic surges immediately, stronger than before. Not reactive. Intentional. Harry feels Draco's power threading into his like interlocking currents. Balanced. Aligned. Now, Harry shouts. They cast in unison. The spell is not violent. It is precise. A binding lattice of silver and gold erupts from their wands, weaving toward the spinning shard. The storm screams. The vortex tightens violently. The shard pulses brighter, almost blinding. Harry feels the backlash push against him like a tidal wave. Draco tightens his grip. Hold. Draco shouts. Harry digs deeper. Not fighting. Centering. The storm tries to feed on strain, but there is none. No denial. No fracture. Only shared intent. The lattice wraps around the shard. The metal vibrates violently. Cracks spread across its surface. The storm roars in resistance. Harry feels the magic peak, and then, break. The shard fractures. Not exploding. Disintegrating. The vortex collapses inward. Snow falls. Not upward. Down. The wind stops. Completely. Silence floods the Highlands. The sky clears in slow spirals, grey clouds dissolving into pale winter blue. Harry and Draco remain standing in the snow, hands still clasped. Breathing hard. The shard has vanished. No remnant. No pulse. The storm is gone. Harry lowers his wand slowly. Draco releases his hand just as slowly. The air feels different. Not charged. Not strained. Natural. Snow drifts gently around them. The silence is almost shocking. Harry glances at Draco. Draco's hair is windswept. His breathing uneven. But his eyes, steady. It's over, Harry says quietly. Yes, They stand there a moment longer. No storm forcing proximity. No magic demanding alignment. Just open sky and cold winter air. Harry doesn't step away. Draco doesn't either. The world has returned to normal. But they have not. The silence feels louder than the storm ever did. Snow drifts down in slow, natural spirals. The sky above the Highlands is pale and wide, washed clean of the violent vortex that had dominated it for days. Harry stands in the open air, breathing deeply for the first time without pressure behind his ribs. Draco is beside him. Not because proximity is required. Because neither of them has stepped away. The absence of the storm is almost disorienting. Harry tests it cautiously. He takes one step to the side. Nothing happens. The wind does not rise. The air does not tighten. The wardstone behind them does not flicker. Draco watches him. "You're checking," he says quietly. "Yes." Harry takes another step. Still nothing. No surge. No vibration. The anomaly is gone. Draco exhales slowly. It's fully collapsed. Harry nods once. He could apparate now. He can feel it, the magic pathways open again, no longer scrambled. They are free to leave. The thought lands heavily. Draco turns slightly, looking toward the distant ridgeline. "There will be a report," he says evenly. "An explanation required." Harry huffs faintly. "We can manage that." Draco's lips curve faintly at that. Silence stretches between them. This is the real test. No storm forcing honesty. No artifact amplifying suppression. Just open air. Harry clears his throat. "There's something else," he says. Draco looks at him. "What?" Harry gestures subtly between them. "I can still feel it." Draco's brow furrows faintly. "The resonance?" "Yes." Draco closes his eyes briefly, focusing. The faintest hum remains, not external. Internal. Their magic had intertwined under pressure. And though the storm is gone, the imprint remains. "It's residual," Draco says quietly. "The ritual contact during stabilization." Harry swallows. "We can sever it," Draco adds. The word hangs in the air. Sever. Harry's pulse ticks once, heavy. "How?" he asks. Draco's expression shifts into something more professional. "A counter spell. It will neutralize the remaining harmonic alignment. Restore complete separation." Harry nods slowly. Complete separation. The air remains still. No wind reacts. No storm pushes. This decision belongs entirely to them. Draco studies him carefully. "It would be simpler," he says. Harry meets his gaze. "Yes." Draco hesitates. "It would remove any lingering magical influence." Harry's throat feels tight. "And if we don't?" Draco's voice lowers slightly. "Then the resonance will fade naturally over time, but not immediately." Harry considers that. He could call it a magical aftereffect. A residual artifact imprint. He could frame everything that happened inside the cabin as anomaly-induced alignment. He could step back. Return to normal. Draco watches him closely. "You're thinking too loudly," Draco murmurs. Harry almost smiles. "I always do." The snow falls softly around them. No storm. No pressure. Just choice. Draco lifts his wand slowly. I can perform the severance now. Harry's chest tightens unexpectedly. Draco waits. No demand. No manipulation. Just an option. Harry steps closer instead. Not forced. Not reacting. Choosing. The air remains calm. He reaches for Draco's wrist lightly. The faint hum between them strengthens slightly at the contact. Not violent. Just present. I don't want to sever it, Harry says quietly. Draco's breath stills. You understand what that means, Draco says softly. Yes. It means what happened in that cabin was not only pressure. I know. Draco searches his face carefully. You're certain? Harry doesn't hesitate. Yes. The snow continues falling. The sky remains clear. Draco lowers his wand slowly. The severance spell dissolves uncast. The choice is made. The resonance hums faintly between them, like an echo of shared magic. Not binding. Not trapping. But real. Draco's lips curve faintly. That is inconvenient, he says softly. Harry huffs a quiet laugh. Yes, but neither of them moves away. No storm to force proximity. No magic to demand alignment. Just open sky. And the decision to remain. The sky remains clear. Snow falls gently instead of spiraling upward. The highlands stretch vast and silent around them, no longer twisted by magic. Harry exhales slowly. It feels different without the storm. Too open. Too exposed. Draco shifts slightly beside him. You feel it, Draco says quietly. Yes, the absence. No pressure. No hum of external force. Just the faint resonance between them, soft and internal. Harry glances toward the ridge. There will be a trace signature, he says. The Ministry will detect the collapse. Draco nods once. They will attempt contact within minutes. As if summoned by the thought, a flare of silver light streaks across the sky to their left. A signal spell. Harry lifts his wand automatically and casts a return flare. The silver light answers almost immediately. Reinforcements are close. The world is returning. Harry looks at Draco. The air between them shifts, not because of magic, but because of reality. What do we tell them? Draco asks. Harry considers. The truth, he says. Draco arches a brow slightly. Which version? Harry huffs faintly. That there was an artifact. It amplified suppressed emotional conflict. It destabilized atmospheric magic. We neutralized it. Draco's gaze sharpens. And the rest? Harry hesitates. Snow drifts softly between them. We don't owe them that, he says quietly. Draco studies him carefully. The faint hum between them lingers. You're remarkably composed, Draco says. Harry smiles faintly. I had a lot of time to think. Another flare of light streaks across the sky, closer now. Aurora transport spells. Harry's pulse ticks faster. Not from fear. From anticipation. The world will see them in seconds. Not trapped. Not forced. Just standing side by side. Draco steps closer instinctively. Not touching. But near. Harry notices, and does not move away. The faint resonance strengthens slightly at proximity. Footsteps crunch through snow beyond the ridge. Voices. Familiar ones. Potter. Ron's voice cuts sharply through the air. Harry turns toward it. Ron crests the ridge first, followed by 2 additional auras and a Ministry field analyst. They stop short at the sight. The sky clear. The vortex gone. Harry and Draco standing close together in the open snow. Ron's eyes flick between him quickly. "You're alive," he says bluntly. "Yes," Harry replies calmly. "What happened?" one of the auras demands. Draco answers before Harry can. Artifact destabilization. Emotional amplification field. Atmospheric inversion. The analyst nods rapidly, scribbling notes. "You neutralized it?" she asks. "Yes," Harry says. "How?" Harry glances at Draco. Draco meets his gaze briefly. "Combined spellwork," Draco replies evenly. Ron looks between them again. His gaze lingers half a second too long. "Combined," he repeats. "Yes," Harry says. The snow continues to fall softly. No wind. No surge. No reaction. The storm is truly gone. The auras fan out, scanning the terrain for residual energy. The analyst moves toward the center of where the vortex once stood, muttering detection charms. Harry feels the weight of eyes returning to him. The world is back. Normal rules. Normal consequences. Draco's shoulder brushes lightly against his. Accidental. Or not. The resonance hums softly. Harry does not step away. Ron notices. His eyebrows rise slightly. But he says nothing. Transport window is open, one of the auras calls. "We can port back," Harry nods. Draco adjusts his robes slightly, regaining composure, but not distance. The moment stretches. They could separate now. Return to familiar positions. Re-establish old lines. No storm to punish it. No magic to amplify the lie. Harry looks at Draco. Draco looks back. The choice hangs there again. Public this time. Harry steps forward deliberately. He rests his hand lightly at the small of Draco's back. Not possessive. Not dramatic. Just there. The resonance strengthens faintly. The world does not explode. No storm returns. Only the quiet crunch of boots in snow. Ron's eyes widen briefly, but he remains silent. Draco does not pull away. The choice is made again. And this time, it is visible. The Ministry atrium feels too bright. Too loud. Too normal. After days beneath a fractured sky, the polished marble floors and golden statues feel almost unreal. Harry steps through the portkey shimmer first. Draco lands beside him a half-second later. Close. Not touching. But close enough that Harry can feel the faint hum between them. Residual. Chosen. The auras disperse quickly, filing reports, alerting unspeakables, coordinating containment analysis. Ron lingers. Of course he does. "You're sure it's gone?" he asks quietly. "Yes," Harry replies. Ron's eyes flick between them again. Not accusing. Just observing. "And you too," he starts. Draco's expression shifts into something politely neutral. Harry doesn't look away. It's handled, he says evenly. Ron's brows lift. That wasn't what I meant. Harry exhales softly. I know. The air hums faintly. Not magical. Tense. Ron studies him carefully. You okay? Harry nods once. Yes. Ron's gaze lingers another second, then he nods too. Good. He leaves them standing there. Together. The atrium noise swells around them, clerks rushing, flu calls echoing, ministry officials whispering. Whispers already. They spread fast. Artifact collapse. Highlands anomaly. Potter and Malfoy trapped together. Combined spellwork. Harry can feel the glances. Curious. Suspicious. Interested. Draco shifts slightly closer. Subtle, he murmurs. Harry's mouth twitches faintly. I'm not hiding. The resonance hums faintly at the words. Draco studies him. Publicly? He asks. Yes. Draco's lips curve faintly. That is reckless. Maybe. The lift doors open. They step inside together. The doors close with a quiet chime. The sudden privacy feels heavier than the storm ever did. Harry leans lightly against the wall. Draco stands beside him, hands folded neatly behind his back. The lift hums upward. They will speculate, Draco says calmly. They already are, and when they ask directly, Harry meets his gaze. The lift slows. I won't deny it. Draco's breath stills slightly. The doors slide open onto level 2. Aurora headquarters. Several heads turn immediately. Whispers shift into something more pointed. Harry steps out first. Draco follows. Their shoulders brush lightly. Deliberate. Not accidental. A junior Aurora freezes mid-stride. Another openly stares. Harry ignores it. He walks toward his office without breaking stride. Draco matches him step for step. Inside the office, Harry closes the door quietly. Silence settles. Draco leans back against the wall. You're certain you want this level of visibility? He asks. Harry removes his gloves slowly. Yes. Draco studies him. You realize this alters how we are perceived? Harry nods. Yes. And you are comfortable with that? Harry steps closer. The faint hum strengthens slightly. I spent years hiding from public narrative, he says quietly. I'm not doing that again. Draco's gaze softens. That is inconvenient, he murmurs. Harry smiles faintly. Yes. A knock interrupts them. Sharp. Harry opens the door. Hermione stands there, eyes sharp and assessing. She looks between them once. Then twice. The silence stretches. Well, she says. Harry meets her gaze steadily. It's neutralized, he says. That's not what I meant. Draco inhales quietly beside him. Harry doesn't hesitate. It's not temporary. Hermione's expression shifts, just slightly. Surprise. Then calculation. Then something like understanding. She nods once. I see. The weight of her gaze lingers. Are you certain? She asks Harry softly. Yes. Her eyes flick to Draco. And you? Yes, Draco replies evenly. Hermione studies them for another long second. Then she nods again. Then I suggest you prepare for questions. Harry huffs faintly. I always am. She turns and leaves without further comment. The door closes. The ministry noise continues beyond it. Harry exhales slowly. Draco steps closer. You did not hesitate, Draco says quietly. Harry looks at him. No, the faint resonance hums. Not forced. Not amplified. Just real. The storm is gone. But the alignment remains. And this time, they are not hiding from it. The backlash begins quietly. Then it grows teeth. By the end of the day, the story has fractured into a dozen versions. Some say the storm was fueled by old rivalry. Some say the artifact bound him unwillingly. Others imply recklessness, compromise, emotional instability. Harry listens without reacting. He has lived under rumor his entire life. But this one is different. Because Draco is involved. The summons arrives just before dusk. Internal review. Harry reads the parchment once, then hands it to Draco. Draco's mouth curves faintly. Predictable. Yes, they walk to the review chamber together. No distance. No hesitation. Inside, 3 senior officials sit at the curved desk. Hermione stands off to the side, not as friend, but as representative. Professional. Controlled. Mr. Potter, Mr. Malfoy, the lead reviewer begins. Your joint report indicates a harmonic magical alignment stabilized the anomaly. Yes, Harry replies. The official steeples his fingers. Such alignment requires significant emotional resonance. Draco's expression remains composed. Yes. The silence stretches. Are we to understand, the official continues carefully, that personal involvement influenced your operational conduct? Harry does not look away. Yes. The room stills. Draco's breath remains steady beside him. The reviewer's brows lift slightly. And you believe that did not compromise judgment? No, Harry says firmly. Draco speaks calmly. It enhanced it. A faint murmur passes between the panel members. Enhanced, one repeats skeptically. Harry steps forward slightly. The artifact amplified suppression and fracture, he says. Alignment neutralized it. That alignment was not instability. It was clarity. Draco's shoulder brushes lightly against his. The faint resonance hums. The lead reviewer studies them carefully. And this alignment persists, Harry answers without hesitation. Yes. The word lands solid. Public. Final. The room is quiet for several long seconds. Then Hermione speaks. The field readings confirm the combined casting stabilized the anomaly at peak volatility, she says evenly. Without that harmonic convergence, collapse would have been catastrophic. The reviewer nods slowly. Very well, he says at last. Operational review will note success. He pauses. However, he adds, professional conduct moving forward will be closely observed. Harry inclines his head slightly. Understood. The meeting ends. They step back into the corridor together. The door closes behind them with a soft click. Harry exhales. Draco glances sideways. You realize that was reckless, Draco says quietly. Harry almost smiles. I meant it. Draco studies him. You chose visibility over convenience. Yes, the resonance hums faintly. Draco's voice lowers. You are remarkably inflexible. Harry laughs quietly. You're worse. Draco's lips twitch. They walk down the corridor. Whispers still trail behind them. But Harry does not slow. He does not create space. He does not step ahead. They walk side by side. Chosen. Visible. Unhidden. Outside the tall ministry windows, evening settles over London. No vortex in the sky. No storm waiting. Just open air. Harry stops briefly at the exit steps. Draco halts beside him. Snow begins to fall lightly over the city. Not violent. Not inverted. Just winter. Harry looks at Draco. No storm, he says. Draco's gaze softens faintly. No. Harry reaches for his hand. Public. Unmistakable. Draco hesitates only a fraction of a second. Then threads their fingers together. The world does not explode. No anomaly forms. No artifact hums. Only the quiet weight of choice. Harry squeezes once. Draco squeezes back. The fallout will continue. Rumors will shift. Eyes will watch. But the storm that mattered is gone. And they did not sever what replaced it. 3 weeks later, the Highlands are quiet. Harry stands at the edge of the ridge where the vortex once spiraled into the sky. There is no sign of it now. No fractured clouds. No inverted snowfall. Only open winter air stretching wide and pale beneath a low sun. Draco stands beside him. Not out of habit. Not out of necessity. Because this is where it began. And where it ended. The snow beneath their boots crunches softly. No hum in the air. No lingering distortion in the magic. The ministry sealed the site after confirming the artifact's destruction. Reports were filed. Reviews completed. Oversight tightened. The world moved on. Harry looks at the clearing where the cabin once stood. It has been dismantled, stone removed, wardstones archived, no trace left behind. But he remembers it clearly. The cold. The pressure. The first time the storm quieted when they stepped closer. You're quiet, Draco says. Harry exhales slowly. Just thinking. Dangerous habit. Harry smiles faintly. About how it felt like we'd never leave. Draco's gaze drifts across the ridge. For a moment, I thought that as well. The wind moves gently through the valley. Not violent. Just winter. Harry shoves his hands into his coat pockets. The resonance is gone, he says. Draco nods once. Yes, it had faded gradually over the weeks. The faint hum between their magic dissolving into something subtler. No longer an echo of forced alignment. Just themselves. Separate. Chosen. Harry glances sideways. You miss it, Draco considers. No, Harry arches a brow faintly. That quick, Draco's mouth curves slightly. I do not miss being compelled toward clarity, Harry laughs quietly. Fair. Draco steps closer, not because of magic. Because he wants to. Do you? Draco asks. Harry thinks for a moment. No, he looks out over the snow-covered hills. I don't miss the storm. Draco's shoulder brushes lightly against his. And the rest? Harry turns to him fully. That wasn't the storm. The words settle between them without strain. Without amplification. Just true. Draco studies him carefully. You're certain, he says. Harry doesn't hesitate. Yes, there is no vortex to react. No ward to flicker. No magic demanding honesty. Just open sky and winter air. Draco reaches for his hand. Public or private no longer matters here. Harry takes it easily. Their fingers lace together. The connection feels different now. Not charged. Not humming. Steady. Human. Returning here was unnecessary, Draco murmurs. Probably, and yet, they stand in silence for several minutes. Snow drifts lightly. A hawk circles high above the valley. Harry exhales slowly. It wasn't the artifact, he says. No, it just made us stop lying. Draco nods faintly. Yes. Harry squeezes his hand once. I don't need a storm for that anymore. Draco's lips curve softly. That is fortunate. Harry smiles. They remain there until the sun begins to dip lower behind the ridge. No anomaly. No pressure. No fracture. Just winter. And the quiet after. Harry releases his hand only long enough to apparate. Draco follows a half-second later. The Highlands remain empty. Peaceful. The storm is gone. But what remained was always theirs.